is Norfolk space guest space access.
I think I'm gonna have to take a picture of that.
Good evening. Welcome to the July 21st, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The time is now 7:05, and I, Tim Martin, call the meeting to order. I would like to remind our members and the audience that this meeting is being broadcast live by NCTV and is also being recorded for future broadcast. At this time, I would ask that we conduct a roll call for attendance.
Tim Martin,
Present?
Joe Sebastiano,
Present.
Josie Kordahi,
Present.
David Axberg.
Present.
Thank you. Our first hearing tonight is scheduled for 7 o'clock. I would ask Mr. Sebastiano to read the notice of hearing and open the public hearing for 228 Dedham Street.
Notice hereby given in accordance with Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws that a public meeting will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals on July 21st, 2021 at 7 p.m. in Room 124 of the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. The applicant, Linbury Corp., is requesting the board consider their application for 2 special permits pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 9, as amended, in Section 1J.7.A.1.b and J.7.A.2.b of the Norfolk zoning bylaws to allow outdoor storage of more than 1 commercial vehicle and to allow outdoor storage for more than 3 commercial vehicles. The property is located at 228 Dedham Street, Norfolk, Mass. Assessors Map 19, Block 69, Lot 25, in the COM zoning district. Is that the commercial district? In the commercial zoning district.
Thank you. My understanding is that the applicant has requested a continuation of this hearing to allow the planning board peer review consultant to complete their review and for the applicant to prepare responses. I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 228 Dedham Street until September 1st at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Hold on, I should have. I'd like to have you vote first to set the meeting for September 1st.
Okay.
And then, just so pause that and vote to set the meeting for September 1st, and then
Okay.
continue with the.
That's what the motion was for.
Well, you were doing 2 things at once, weren't you?
Trying to. Like to,
Sorry.
I'd entertain a motion to set a meeting for September 1st, 2021.
What you want?
Yes,
So moved.
thanks.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The applicant has requested a continuation. Therefore, I would entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 228 Dedham Street until September 1st at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand now.
Time is 7:05. 7:05.
7:05 is fine. Can't see the clock.
So you got a little bit, 7:05. If you want to take, out of order, just,
Sure, we have a few minutes. Our next hearing is not scheduled until 7:15.
yeah, so you have,
We could approve minutes. Did we get minutes?
no, so you actually have 3 items in terms of old, new business. First, maybe start, if you like, discussion to designate a chair for the board, or you want to wait. So, well, let me back up, intro. So, Christian Metcalf was appointed by the select board last night to be the 5th member.
It's just Christopher. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I said Christian. Sorry.
Okay.
My apologies, Christopher. To be the full member of the board. So now you're at least in the position to be able to organize in terms of office holders. So we did have on here for tonight potentially to at least designate the chair. And just in general terms, I know Joe would like to maybe take a rest from being the clerk.
Yeah.
So you'd have actually, well, you have newer members, so the thought was maybe do 2 things. One, designate the chair if you want tonight, or you could wait to the next meeting. That's a possibility. Or take a vote for the chair tonight, and then maybe defer on the clerk until somebody
You
kind of
might be more comfortable to step up.
Yeah, it might be to just transition over.
And I
Okay.
would help that transition as needed.
So those are kind of the,
Yeah, I'll entertain discussion on that if we want to talk about appointing a chair for this evening, that'd be fine.
I'm fine with that if we want to.
I made my voice known last meeting, that maybe, Tim, you've been the acting chair, maybe you could continue being chair.
I'd be happy to if that's the pleasure of the board.
Same, I agree.
all right. So if someone like a motion
So,
to that
yeah,
effect?
I'd like to make a motion that Tim continues to be the chair, from being a participant chair, if you want to call it that, or an interim chair, to an official role as chairman of the board.
Okay.
And I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
and the second option makes sense, I think, probably on the
I
clerk.
I think so. I think we
Yeah.
should give time for, let people think about it.
Yeah.
And we can, we'll have a new member by that
Yeah.
time.
And even vice chair too, so you'll need a
Right.
vice chair, so
So-
kind of think about that.
And we do
Well-
have a need, I think, for more volunteers to step up and join this board.
Yeah, so there are two still openings in terms of associate members, so if somebody wanted to
Step up. There were,
step up,
there were a lot of folks who participated, volunteered a lot of time on the downtown business studies and all that, and maybe some of those folks, or maybe one or two of them might have some energy and to bring again, and they have a lot of knowledge and certainly the well-being of the town in their best interest, so one of those folks, or anybody for that matter, from any background, I'd encourage it.
so the good news is, in one sense, so one of them did step up to be associate member of the planning board. And then the other volunteer, he's pretty busy, so he's doing other things, but, so we kind of go to the bigger bullpen of the town of Norfolk to
Sure,
get,
no, open it up to everybody, we want
But,
more volunteers, we want people to be heard. Any background is wonderful. We meet typically once a month, third Wednesday of the month, sometimes more often, sometimes a little less often. So it would be several hours a month of a commitment, but I think it's well worth it, and look forward to getting some more volunteers on board.
so then the next item under old new business is endorsement of the plans for 194 Main Street. And those plans are ready for endorsement. They've been reviewed by Bill McGrath from Beta Group. I took a look at them as well. And everything in terms of what needs to be in place is in place for endorsement.
Okay.
There are other things that will happen at the next phase, which gets into the construction aspect of it. What we've proposed to do is kind of a newer format in terms of 2 hard copies to sign them, and then their engineer will graciously scan us back a copy of the endorsed plans.
Okay,
So we'll have a paper copy for the office, and then we'll have an electronic version of this plan on record too. So,
okay.
I know, do you want to do your, well,
And since Bill's here, Bill, you've had a chance to look at those plans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have.
Okay,
We submitted a letter a couple of weeks ago, and I think there was some subsequent revisions that we also looked at, so we're satisfied that everything that's in the approved conditions is shown on the plans.
okay. Any questions from the board on that? Okay.
are these stapled together?
I left them so we can scan them.
Just to come up on snuff, 194 Main Street, is that where the barber shop was?
Correct.
And
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Burke's? Was Burke's in there too?
Yes,
I
yes,
believe so, yes.
Yes.
Okay. It was the original Norfolk Power.
yes.
Correct, yep.
Yeah. I bought my first lawnmower from Glenn. It was Glenn's first lawnmower,
I
I
think
think.
we'll
sold.
probably do, I think what we'll do is, in the interest of time, we'll do signing at the end.
Well, yeah, we'll hold up the signing till the end.
I'll just hold those there for a moment. And then the other plans on there are Lakeland Hills. I've not completed the review in terms of, if they're ready for endorsement. And I've sent them off to DPW to take a look. So one possible option is, although it might not all be around, but with vacations, but I can take a look, and in between, if everything's in order, you could vote to sign them subject to final review to make sure everything's there prior to endorsement. If you want to then come and endorse them at your own leisure, we could do that
Okay.
for those.
Just so that we know, when you checked through those plans, were there anything that was promised to abutters like we found on Lakeland Hills, or the one on Cleveland Street there?
Good
that-
question.
Is there anything like that we might be missing?
Yeah,
Or
so,
that we should double check?
so what I did, might not, is that the
Well,
letter?
Lakeland Hills, I think the construction didn't match the plans. Is that correct?
There was some final, so what they had to finish out the permitting process through conservation. That's been done, that's reflected on here. And that what was part of the conditions of the comprehensive permit
Yep.
have been added to the plan. And there is a letter from their engineer of each one of those items. You know, there's a fence to the abutter,
Okay.
a parcel designation. So those are on there, but I want to go through the whole entire thing, just
Sure.
to be sure.
Sure.
But yeah, those things are on there
Okay.
as well. So I'm just asking more of a conditional endorsement in terms of when they're ready. I'd say, hey, come on in.
But I was asking even for 194, was there anything in 194 that there was discussions that we weren't privy of that might have been caught or not caught?
There wasn't even,
Like a neighbor or butter saying they want the front porch facing, south
Right,
or?
right, right.
not in that one, there wasn't any, in terms of special,
I think we know now somebody bought a lawnmower, so he might not be able to sign the plans.
Oh, it was Norfolk Power at the time. It's not anymore, so.
Yeah.
Power's gotten much bigger and much.
yeah. No, no, there wasn't anything, they were added in the process of the,
Okay.
of the permitting process. There wasn't any special consideration butters after the permitting was done for 194 Main.
Yeah, there were a couple of butters present, and, I think the board heard their concerns. I think their concerns had more to do with street view, because they were actually not direct, they were like up the road a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't any, unlike the couple of other ones where there was some specific,
Some caveats.
in
yeah.
terms of some conditions related to the project. It wasn't in 194's case, but.
Okay. I believe it's after 7:15, I think it's 7:17, so if the applicant is here for Pine Street, we'd ask them to step up, please.
Okay. Can I see it?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Michael O'Shaughnessy. I'm here tonight on behalf of 35 Pine Street LLC. With us in person tonight is Al Cagliari, and
Okay.
Jamie Bissonette is also here. Just a couple of housekeeping matters before we dive into things. You folks should have received a revised set of plans today. There was a few changes to the plans that you didn't see last time. One of the changes had to do with the wall behind lots, was that 6, 7, 8, Jamie?
That's correct, yep.
Al and a member of Jamie's team were able to get creative with the grading behind the lot, so they were able to change the height and length of the wall. So instead now of being an 8-foot wall, it's what, 3 feet tall or something like that?
Yeah, it's under 4 feet
It's un-
everywhere in this. It's much better.
And along that property line as well, there's also a 6-foot-high fence to kind of provide a view for blocking a view for the abutting properties as well. We've also added today, at the last minute, the site distance triangles that is on the last sheet of the set.
It is,
That,
on detail sheet 3. And I've also brought in some printed copies as well. We got them and had them on the plan within 5 minutes, so apologize for the delay.
So the
And-
6-foot fence, that was proposed previous, it's just the wall was,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you can go to the next plan, I guess, or the next one down. So we had a fence proposed here originally, and the wall ran from here to approximately here. Now the wall runs from, at this point here on lot 5, probably to shy of 6. And we have a 6-foot fence on the top of that whole point there, if you will, to kind of provide a buffer between the project and the abutting neighbor.
So again, on the southerly side, on the lower end, about approximately where would that wall or fence end?
Could you, what sheet is it, Jamie?
That'd be on the grading sheet, which is, I think, 3 or 4.
So, right here, so here's the wall.
Okay.
It's partially up lot 5, it ends in lot 6. And the fence goes from the intersection of this property line down here, all the way to the drainage basin, approximately in the middle. And the other change is, we created 3 parcels, parcel A, B, or C, or whatever, however Jamie has them labeled, but those are the 3 components of the plans that we've revised since the last time we were here.
And that would be for the roadway and for the, what I'll call the drainage or open space areas?
That's right.
No other changes to the plan?
That's it. I think those are the 3 hot issues that Dan had flagged in his email from 2 or 3 weeks ago, so.
So the lots A, B, and C is that on the, what sheet is that?
Yeah, what sheet is that on,
It would
Jamie?
be on the registry sheet, which I think is sheet 3.
Okay, I see it. So
Before we-
parcel A is the road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did A because we had it as the roadway before, I didn't want to mess up paperwork.
Okay.
And then B and C would be the drainage process.
Before we move on to the waivers and conditions and those things, Bill, did you have a chance to look at this plan?
No, not really. We got it late this afternoon.
Okay. Do you have any feedback on the spot for that?
I think changing the wall is a positive, limiting the height of the wall. I think they've identified the 3 lots like they were requested to do, so.
Okay,
But we haven't looked at it.
understood. Okay, thank you.
In the site distances, did you say that's another sheet attached to the set, or?
It's on the detail sheet,
The last sheet in the set.
yep, and I handed the attachment from the traffic engineer we received this afternoon. All the way to the end. Right there, right on the bottom of.
I have a different sheet 10. Was there a second email that was sent to
It
you?
was,
Oh,
yes.
what-
I apologize, we got the email from the traffic engineer, what, maybe 4:05,
Yeah.
4:30? And so I modified the plan to include it and sent it over at the end.
Jamie, you might want to step up to the microphone in case, so they can hear you.
Sure, absolutely.
So I know, Bill, you had this comment, right, to add this detail to the plan sheet, plan set?
That's correct, yeah.
Is that what you had in mind, was this, or
Yeah, no, I think
does that work?
that works.
Okay.
I think the information is there, so.
Okay. And Jamie, you were gonna, clarify the proposed waivers for the walking path, right? Is that done too?
That's right, you wanted on the detail for us to actually name the specific company. What I did was I sent over the specs for everything over to Rich with pictures.
And since you mentioned the pathway, maybe Rich can get us up to speed on any input or thoughts or guidance the planning board may have had for us on that.
Sure. So the planning board discussed it at the last meeting of the board on the 15th of July. There was only 4 members present at the time, so the 4 of them talked back and forth. They understood and could appreciate the intent of terms of using the turf stone paver as a way to kind of soften what, the appearance is to provide the walkway. in the end, they were kind of indifferent, you know, there was one side, didn't come to total consensus. But in terms of the fact that it will be maintained by the association, it's not as part of a public sidewalk piece of it, they weren't averse to trying it as a different method as a walkway surface. So, you know, there wasn't.
Were they all in agreement that there should be some pathway or walkway, or
Yeah,
some?
there should, yes, the consensus was there should be something as
Okay.
opposed to nothing. And so in terms of a compromise to have something that provides a walkway, this would fill that piece of it. And then we'll, you know, my office, and so we'll kind of monitor along the way and see in terms of how, you know, how it goes. I don't think we would ever use it in a public sidewalk, you know, public.
Right.
I don't think so.
Especially not grass in terms of Norfolk, because don't have, you know, irrigate, you know, we can't you know, so,
Mhm.
so anyway, but this is a different application.
Thank you.
Dan, do you want to go over the waivers and talk about conditions?
Yeah,
So did you put this on the plan, the landscape plan? Did you call that out on the landscape plan, or did you
It's,
just put a page of what it looks like?
nope, it's shown also on, it's called out on the, I believe it's on the layout or the grading plan, or maybe both. Yeah, and it's hatched as well on the majority of the sheets. So you can see it in where Stephanie's placing it. And then, yeah, there'll be certain sheets that actually call it out. We try not to put all the same text on every sheet. It would just clutter the plans too much.
sure. Okay. What time did you send that email? I don't see it.
It was, what, 10 minutes to 5? It was,
Yeah, it was pretty close to 5.
I can
I
forward
don't
it.
know if you were CC'd on it, Dan. It was,
Oh, I apologize.
To you, Rich.
So I think I think what I was getting at with that detail sheet was just, you've got the detail, it doesn't say what it's for. So I think just putting a label on it saying there's a walkway,
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I do. I understand.
Connect it up. You wanna talk about the waivers?
Please.
Start with those?
It was, okay. It was sent, but you weren't on, so we'll,
I just sent it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Which ones do you want me to bring up?
the waivers.
Do you want Mike's or Dan's?
Probably Mike's
that,
waiver, right? Because you saw Mike's comments late, you want to put Mike,
I think
Return.
I forwarded those to you guys, didn't I?
So that's the MPO 7.
right,
on
One from this
21.
afternoon.
right.
You
Okay.
you sent it to us this afternoon too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the first change, Mike, was the J.
Yes, sir. Let me turn to it. J4A7. I added in the language on the westerly side of the roadway as shown in the plans, and that was referring to the walkway we were just talking about. It was just to kind of clarify the intent. It kind of was
Oh, okay.
unclear whether it was both sides of the
Okay.
road.
You
In
want this
section J4B2, I think Dan had asked for us to add a range in the size of the lots. We've done that today. They range from 5,000, 6,000 to 11,000 square feet. And then on section 5, subsection 5.2.1.1 in the decision column, I think it was just a typo. It referred to the walkway as being 5 foot wide. Boy, yeah, that's a tough one. Hang on.
We were just on 9 and 10.
I've got it up too.
Yeah, 10.
What's the section again?
Sorry?
They're on 5?
I-
Section 5?
I think they are on you're on section 3, aren't you?
Well, no, I'm on section 5.
5, sorry.
It's on page 22.
And what we changed?
It's just in, changing the 5 feet to 4 feet. The walkway width is 4 feet, the easement width is 5 feet. I think it was just a typo.
Okay. So is the board okay with the proposed pavers? The grass pavers, the 4-foot wide grass pavers?
Any discussion on that? Any thoughts,
I mean, you're asking me, I liked it, you know. My only question was the maintenance, you know. I think it's attractive, I have seen it.
And I'll just say, I'm an advocate for sidewalks in Norfolk. It goes on since the day I was on the road safety committee, but in this application, what's been proposed, it almost sounds like this was the only chance to have a walkway in this application. I can support it based on what the planning board appears to have discussed and supports.
Yeah, I think it was pretty telling that the planning board didn't come to you and say, absolutely not.
Right.
Right? I mean, so they're basically indifferent.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we're waiting for, is to.
No, I
get some
agree. I'm
feedback.
glad we have their input tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I would be opposed to using that type of paver in a lot of developments, especially public ones.
Yeah.
So, but in this particular application, it appears to be one of the options, or the option we really have before us.
Right.
So I understand that.
You're gonna narrow, I drove down Pine Street, you're gonna narrow that street even more. I think the last time we were talking about, what was it, 19 feet wide?
The one we're proposing is 20 feet at the gutter lines and 22 at the back of the Cape Cod berms.
Okay, so if you have your sidewalks, it's gonna be even more narrow, and you're probably not gonna get sidewalks on both sides, maybe a sidewalk on one side. So it's not going to meet it's not gonna meet the purpose we want it to, and if we might as well look good if it's not going to. So I'm for the other one.
So you're comfortable with the pathway? for this
I
plan?
am, because if we had the space to have a sidewalk, and you all have valid reasons for having the sidewalk, then it has to meet the purpose and the valid reasons that we're saying. If it's not gonna meet these reasons, if it's not gonna meet that purpose that we're saying, then, and it's gonna narrow that road more, then I would prefer the promenade.
Well, I don't think it was gonna narrow the road. I think if we were gonna require the sidewalk, it would have been taking up more space in the front yards of the houses, and that was the applicant's concern, is that there wasn't much front yard to begin with, and that this would just be,
More asphalt.
Yeah, I don't
I
this
think that was
impacts
the issue.
width of the
Wouldn't,
road.
okay.
Yeah.
So how much is the frontage?
The front
The
yard.
depth,
You're right,
the
the way it is,
setback.
yeah, the way it is now,
It might vary.
They vary a little bit.
It varies a little bit.
There were some that were really
really,
Right.
like, yeah.
minor.
Yeah, some of them are pretty small, like 25 feet, 20.
Yeah, I think they have a,
Can you zoom
I
in on
think
that,
we-
Stephanie,
I
please?
think part of was the setbacks or even,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's a dead end,
It
it's a
is.
small street. I live on Seacon Street, we don't have sidewalks, that's worrisome, but it's a small street, you know, easy in, easy out. I feel that the promenade would look nice, it would contribute to it. I don't see all the safety concerns in a street like that.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it's somehow in the owners association that it does get taken care of,
Yes,
so it's able to be snow,
Yep,
you know,
yep.
can be taken care of when it does snow. You know, you said it had to be maintained so that could happen.
I think you drafted it that way, and I think if there was any negligence or out there, or just not maintenance, the town could step up and then assess the owners also. I think that was gonna be part of the language, not for snow removal, but for maintenance.
I put that in there for stormwater only, not for just general road maintenance. You can, I don't recommend it,
Okay.
because then you're gonna have neighbors calling you and complaining about potholes
Sure.
and stuff.
Well, I don't wanna open up that
Yeah,
box, but.
but there is language in the decision about the stormwater system, and the concern there was because it's so close to Pine Street, if it wasn't being maintained, it was flooding Pine Street, that we'd have the ability to go in there and fix it.
Any Any more thoughts on this, David?
No, I think that, I think the pathway, I think the way they've presented it, I think it's fine. I think you might get people parking up onto it because it's now a nice added extra, but you're gonna do that if you pave it, so.
You're gonna have a lot of angry neighbors if you're parking up there.
Yeah,
Right.
they won't like that, yeah.
You'd be surprised.
No, I support it. I think aesthetically, that's not why I support it, but I think because of it, it does give the residents and the visitors there an option to be safer, be off the road if they're walking. So for that reason, I support it. I certainly prefer that as to nothing.
Exactly,
Um,
that's my feeling.
Yeah,
Prefer it as
so I
nothing.
support this proposal.
Actually, I think it's a good thing to see if people are using it and for what it's intended in the years to come. So it'd be kind of interesting. It might be something that could be used elsewhere, you know, around the schools or something.
One of the things I know is that, of the sidewalks we have been able to add to town, it's nice to see that people are using them.
Yep.
I mean, there could be some buried in the smaller developments that don't get used that much, or might have gotten grown over a little bit. But for the most part, the big new ones that are in there, like along 115, people are using them.
Yep.
So it's good to see that.
No, that is good.
Who knows, Al, maybe you'll start a new trend here in Norfolk,
You might.
Well, no, I don't know if I want to see this everywhere. I don't know.
Well, I think it could be used in other places, like around for fire
Oh,
roads
certainly.
and
Well, yeah, I
fire-
agree
and
for
that kind of
driving
stuff.
over it,
I think for driving, I think that's a great application for that.
And that's the only thing I've really seen it used for before.
Yeah,
is that
that's
used
all I
for-
ever used it.
Right, so in case someone has to drive into something.
I do remember the bus stop or the bus shelter, wasn't that near the area we're talking about here, the promenade? So
Yes.
that gave more clearance for that, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's down at towards the entrance,
Yes.
and that's a bigger area too for kids to
Yes.
get off of the roadway.
Okay.
This leads to it nicely.
Okay, so while we're in section 5, like, can we just make sure we're in agreement on the language of these waiver decisions? Cause there was some talk about the
Little
curb that's behind the catch basin, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm a little confused by which, there's multiple sections of the stormwater regs that deal with this, it seems, and, is it the transit curves, is that the issue? Or, what do we call these things?
The stone inlet at the catch basins.
Yes.
The inlet, we're talking about the granite.
The granite inlet ones.
Yeah, I think there's, the granite inlet stone is the curb stone that has the opening in it, behind the catch basin.
Okay.
Then there's the transition stones, or the granite stones that will transition back to the asphalt berm.
So this picture doesn't
That's
show any
not-
inlet, right?
Rich, do you have the picture I sent you?
Yeah, these aren't
Yeah,
showing any
we just
granite.
showing the, we do. Well, you wanna see that?
Well, I think Dan was trying to get an idea of what it looked like.
Is there any, Rich, is there any way, I texted you a picture this afternoon,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any way.
Well, I have,
I emailed you a picture
I think
also.
I personally am okay, I don't think I need to see it, I know what you're talking about, and I just wanna make clear, we denied that, you asked for a waiver from that, so we denied that. So you still have to provide the curb inlet stones, right?
No,
no,
I thought we were doing away with that, Rich.
he was requesting reconsideration to allow, to grant the waiver of it, so.
So the second picture you sent us, Rich.
I
that
sent you
had-
pictures to
You sent
show-
us two pictures.
Yeah,
Right.
One of them, the other one, I think, that one there,
yep,
those don't work well. Only because the water comes down, and if it's an overflow rain, or if there's any leaves on that grate, that water's going discharged down into that water. So if you have the stone up, it can't do that. It's going right into that back, and even if it's got a leaf or something, it's going into the pit, at least. This does not. It goes up over that curb and it's down into the woods, or into wetlands or somebody's front yard or at the bus stop. This scenario is not a good one. The first one, I'd agree with that because it will bypass that and go to the next one if it's clogged.
Yeah, I was just,
So,
that,
That's
those,
what we're proposing.
that's what they're proposing. I was just, so that
the
one.
the only downside of that is it could end up on 115 if
Yeah.
it comes down the whole road and bypasses all of them.
So
We have a trench drain.
Yeah, Stephanie, can you put the layout plan or grading plan back up? So to circumvent that happening, we have a trench drain going across the entire entrance from gutter line to gutter line that will catch all the water.
Really?
And that goes into the drain system. Yep, right there. So you see the thick, nope, down a little bit, Stephanie?
Yeah,
Towards
see
the
it.
road?
It's right.
Yeah, so we have that, and we have the catch basin just up gradient, so if it does pass by, we have a backup.
Bill, do you feel comfortable with that trench drain catching all that water?
Not if all the other basins were clogged, I would say no. I think there's probably too much water, and would probably partially bypass the trench drain. And again, it's up to the board. The idea of the inlet stones is more as a factor of safety. As you mentioned, if there's leaves or there's ice or there's snow on top of the grate, the inlet stone provides another way for the water to get into the basin.
Yeah, not to get into back and forth, which I get, but
The planning board requires this.
what I was showing you, the first picture I showed required a granite inlet, and DPW did that street, they swapped out for that, so they just had the back of berm behind it. So when it is an asphalt berm, they try to stay away from the granite because of the whole plowing issue and banging so.
Yeah, and understandable.
So that's they do, that would say that we do it. It's not to say that we don't use that as an application of it. I agree, but the granite inlet stone, you gotta maintain it too, because if you don't, that could, so.
They freeze up, they clog up freeze up and the leaves freeze up.
I'll tell you what, if I didn't maintain the one in front of my house, we'd be in trouble.
Same
Because
here.
the town never I don't live here, so I could say this. I'm not a Norfolk resident, but I have the granite in front of my driveway, and if I don't clean it out, it's not getting cleaned out. So I know what it's supposed to do, but it requires maintenance, like anything, right? So, you wanna,
So, Bill, what would you recommend so that we feel comfortable that we don't have a problem on 115 with water running down there?
So, I think the system's gonna work either way. I think as long as there's a commitment to maintenance, which means sweeping the streets, means removing leaves if the grates are clogged, which is something beyond just sweeping the streets twice a year. If the system is maintained, then I think it probably functions fine without the inlet stones. Again, like I said, the inlet stones are designed really to provide an additional factor of safety.
And the benefit of the trench drain going across?
I think the trench drain provides a lot of benefit as sort of that last piece to capture runoff. I'm not sure that if the rest of the system was clogged and all the water was coming down and not getting into any of the other basins, that the trench drain would have the capacity to capture it all. But again, I think whether you can condition it, but I think if there's a commitment from the HOA to maintain those grates, remove any leaves, remove any debris, then the system would probably function fine.
And that would be my question, could they put that in the HOA requirement?
Well, we already have a condition, we have standard conditions that requires the HOA to perpetually maintain the stormwater system. They have to provide an operation and maintenance plan.
Right.
That plan has to be implemented by the HOA, and if it's not, there's a enforcement mechanism that we have as the zoning board, and the town can go onto the property, do the maintenance itself, and charge the HOA for it.
Okay.
Do we know how often the planning board waives this requirement? I mean, it's in there, it's in the reg, so is it something that they don't always enforce, or?
Well, they're probably, we talked about a while ago. So the regs the last update was 2010, so they have actually gone away from granite curbing and they've gone with monolithic berms, so they've transitioned away from granite curbing and in terms of, they've even done, the last subdivision had open drainage in terms of, for BMPs, so unfortunately, it's kind of a little bit of a relic in terms of we need to update the regs to match what they're trying to do stormwater-wise, so we're caught.
So let me ask Bill the question a little bit differently. So if we required and the applicant went along with the other storm drain, we'd still have the same, they're not properly maintained.
Yeah, with anything, it requires proper
So
maintenance.
that's gonna be the key of this, is whichever one you choose,
They
if they're
have
not
to-
maintained, they're gonna have the same result. And that trench basin will do a lot, but it may not catch it all under any scenario, under the worst condition scenario.
And from the town's point of view, I think it'll be clear, if there's water runoff flowing over that trench drain and out into Pine Street.
Okay.
The only thing with the granite that does, it's not whether they're maintained or not, it's, you have one fall day where all the trees drop their leaves. It's not a matter of it being that next rainstorm comes, those grates are all filled, and then the street is full of water. 115's full of water. Those back curbs actually catch all that water still, because the leaves, it's going in there, and so it's not coming down on those. They then get out, they clean their drains and everything out, and everything's back. But it's that one storm that those granite curbs really do stop it. I see it all the time. I manage condos. The granite curbs work. So, I mean, I'm not saying you have to have them. I'm just saying they work better than not having them. So, and it's that one time that, fall time, the next day it's cold, you got water out on 115, you got more problems than anything else. So, that's my, it's not that big of a road, but there's a lot of water that comes down quick. We've just watched it for the last 3 weeks, so.
No.
Rich, were you indicating that the planning board is going away from these type of granite?
Well,
That's-
they're using,
What you showed in the picture?
Well, the DPW just did that, right?
Right.
yeah, this is what,
Right.
That's a public way, and it's not a subdivision road, right?
No, correct.
Where was that?
that's Frederickson Road.
Sorry?
Frederickson Road,
Yeah, that's not,
which,
yeah, public way.
it's not yet, it will be. So
Yeah.
that was Frederickson Road. That, their catch basin is Frederickson Road Extension, which will be a public way.
Oh, so it is a subdivision?
Yeah,
This was approved by the planning board?
that was approved by the planning board.
Okay.
And on that same subdivision, they have a swale inlet to catch the rain as well. So they're, they're kind of mission, transition, I'll call them, more country drainage, different, not the granite, I don't know how to describe it, but they are in these techniques as far as stormwater goes on the systems.
So this is the trend of the town now.
Yeah, well, they're doing it. They
Well,
just-
yeah,
they're
the
doing all- they
berm
just
is
did over here on-
approved and everything,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
if you go on North Street, you can see it. If you travel 150, like the same 115,
Sure.
there's a mix. There's some of those, and then
There
there's-
is.
So,
Yeah.
this isn't something that we're not doing. You know what I mean?
Has there been a problem?
Yeah, I think the problem sometimes is the curb gets broken up when the curb starts breaking
I
up.
think when,
You know, the
when
plow
you're
starts
snow
being like-
plowing them
yeah,
or
and all
whatever.
of a sudden you got a
Catch
broken.
the edge of the granite.
Yeah.
And you rip it right out
Right.
of the basin.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
The only thing I would say to that is that's so
I don't wanna see the snow plow
that,
that did that.
so you don't have a sharp edge.
Shouldn't you have weeds growing through them? They don't look right with asphalt on both sides of them.
I think honestly, I think this is a better look than the granite. I would agree with you.
And, I mean, you got 8 brand-new houses, your default position is you're not gonna maintain the road. They're not gonna want their catch basins to work. They're not gonna have someone do a spring and a fall cleanup. You know, we're defaulting to the worst case, that this place goes to hell and nobody cuts their lawns, mows the walkways, cleans the drainage, turns over the sand. I mean, why are we even considering the project?
But that's what we have to do we have to assume the worst, hope for the best, and that's what all these conditions are for, is to make sure that, is to set the rules. So,
And I think we set the rules pretty well, and that's to have a homeowners association maintain the road.
That would include maintaining if the curb falls apart and everything?
All the drainage basins,
Right, I'm
everything.
talking about the actual curbing, the actual, you know.
Yeah, they have to fix the
Everything.
curbing,
Right,
everything.
They're maintaining everything.
Right, right,
Curbing,
right.
Catch basins.
So when we set up the homeowners associations, I typically factor in a replacement reserve. So over the course of the year, there's X amount of dollars placed into a fund that will build up over time, that can pay for the cost of the road, pay for the cost of the curb pops, pay to replace the drainage system if it fails. And it goes on and on and on, and over 20 years, that reserve builds up pretty good. So it's not like the town where in 20 years, like, oh, where are we gonna steal some money to fix this? The money's there and it's dedicated for that. So, I mean, there are some safety belts built into this.
It still goes to who manages that account, right? Like, meaning it's someone within that homeowners association?
It'd be the trust.
One of the residents would take the lead, or,
Yes.
yeah, and sometimes that could fall apart too, right?
I don't know if you, and that can fall apart. I don't know if you're going to appoint a trustee. You've got people appointing themselves as trustee. That creates a lot of problems in
Yep.
there. They end up bringing it to the town. I don't know. Maybe you should have a trustee.
Jamie would be the trustee.
Okay.
But I think,
Can we put that in the,
just
Bill McGrath,
to what Bill said, is,
I've been the trustee in perpetuity.
but Bill, is it fair, Bill, is it fair to say no matter which curbing they go with, it's gonna be an issue if it's not maintained? It could be an issue.
It could be, yes.
Yeah, it will be an issue.
And if they maintain it, that would work fine.
Yeah. I think there's always the small possibility that, you know, you get a rainstorm right after all the leaves fall, but, you know, again, if someone is watching that, I think it has to be more of just twice a year routine maintenance. I think somebody has to be monitoring it to make sure that something unusual doesn't happen, that's all.
It would just seem to me that this is the best we're gonna get, because if we go the other way, you're gonna be digging them out with plows, potentially, and with the trench drain, that's gonna be the item that protects us the most on that, and whichever one we pick, it's the same issue. So why, and this is less danger to the plow folks. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly simpler construction, it's more cohesive construction, so.
Okay, well, that's my thought on it.
So
Yep.
consensus is to waive the inlet stones?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll make those two changes on 5333, 5334.
Yeah, the bottom of page
So make those
23.
waivers.
Yep.
On the next page, just wanna make sure we're okay with the streetlight language. The applicant shall install uniform lamp posts on each house lot within the 13-foot easement area, which shall be hardwired and set to remain on from dusk to dawn. The lamp post shall be perpetually maintained by the HOA.
Where's that,
Page 24, Al.
24 right at the
Bottom.
bottom.
24?
Yeah, the bottom one.
Does that work?
Yeah, we're,
And then on the next page, with respect to the bounds, what we talked about the last meeting was that, these sections are waived only with respect to the required locations of the monuments and bounds. The bounds shall be installed in the locations proposed on sheet 3.
And with those two new parcels, a couple of additional bounds were added. So the updated plans reflect those additional bounds.
Okay. then, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I think we should just make sure there was some red lines in this document, and I wanna make sure we're all on the same page with the
Okay.
language. These are changes that I made after the last meeting to incorporate what I thought was discussed.
Can you just identify the page, Dan, when you go there?
I will, yep. Page 13, section 333. Staking shall be provided to identify the roadway alignment at specific locations along the roadway as may be required by the engineer.
Yeah, it's basically at the front. We need to,
Yeah,
I'll
no.
work out with Bill ahead of time what he wants to.
Yeah. Well, it won't get installed, right, so
Yep.
I have no problem with that.
And then on page 18, the cited language, we're waiving the regulation, but provided that the design of the intersection shall conform to site distance standards set forth in the DOT guide that references ASHTO. So basically just, we're requiring compliance with the ASHTO standard, which you comply with the site triangles being cleared.
Is that's 41471,
No, it's the bottom one right
the
here.
bottom one?
Yep.
Does that comply, Jamie?
According to the traffic engineer's letter, yes.
Okay.
So what is it, I can't see, what is it we're waiving there?
The regulation, has different site distance standards. I don't know if you wanna pull it up, but it's actually, I don't know where they come from. The regs have like specific site distance requirements for different types of roads that don't necessarily match up with ASHTO. ASHTO is actually a much better
Sure, yep.
tool.
Again, kind of
It hasn't been updated for a while.
no,
Yeah, they should just put ASHTO in there for.
right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then, 21, at the bottom of 21, so this is the language I added that, adequate access easements for maintenance are reserved for the benefit of the homeowners, and the town of Norfolk. That's for the maintenance of stormwater systems. But we're waiving the setback requirements in the regs, for the stormwater systems.
And we,
You were okay with that, Bill, right? The setbacks?
and we did confirm, you had asked me to look into that setback distance of 15 feet.
Yeah.
We did confirm that. It was right around 15 feet.
Okay. I guess that was it. All right, so I'm gonna make a couple little changes based on what we talked about tonight, and then we're done with the waivers. So, you wanna jump to conditions?
Sure.
So the conditions are roughly the same conditions we used for Maine. Obviously, it's a different kind of project, so some of the stuff came out. I put in some language from the C decision. Every condition in this document either comes from 194 or the Seekonk project. The version I circulated 2 weeks ago, I made some edits today to mostly just grammatical stuff. I had some confusing references to approved plans and final plans, so I'll clean that up. Now Mike, you had some edits, right?
Yeah, so,
I have a question, quick question. The ones in red that have strike-throughs, are those yours, Dan?
no, that's what we went over today.
All right, thank you.
So,
Do you wanna walk through those?
yeah,
your
we can walk
changes?
through those, sure.
That makes sense.
Please, yeah, go right
Do you have that version? Oh, that's this, okay.
That's the MPO, right?
Yes, yes.
Want to do split screen or just full screen?
I think you can just use his. Yeah.
So the first couple of pages just go over the procedural history and all that stuff, so it probably makes sense just to jump to the conditions, section 5. Starts with A. So on A1, we didn't make any.
We have to update the architectural.
Right. So, on A1, we hadn't made any changes to Dan's plan. You'll see that that the highlighted set was the July 17th set. That was the plan set we had sent over Monday. We'll have to update that to reflect the current today's plans, which is, they were dated the 21st, I think.
21st, yep.
And if you go to the next page, Stephanie, we added in, at the very top, right there, yeah. This is Dan's version.
Yeah.
This is not the one I sent over earlier today. It was about 4, I don't have it on my phone.
I do.
Is this the version they sent us?
We have hard copies if.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
It's about 316, Mike.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll just look at this.
Yeah, this is it. So right above A2, I added a reference into sheets A1 and A2. Those are plans that we had prepared in April. I think we had showed them to you at one time we were presenting our rendering. Those were slightly different from what we originally submitted in that we provided for a first floor master bedroom, and we changed the size of the unit slightly such that, you know, maybe one was a little smaller than the others, but those are basically the plans that we intend to construct. Obviously, building permit time, we owe you a full set of plans for, you know, the building commissioner review and stuff. But with respect to A1, that was the only additional reference.
So we have those sheets?
Yes. Sheet number A2 on the form in front of us, we didn't change that. We didn't change anything Dan had provided. Sections A3, A4, and A5, these provisions dealt with providing final plans to you guys to look at again and have Bill review. We believe the plans that are before you tonight are final construction drawings. They've been supported by stormwater calculations. They've been supported by review by Bill. We don't think they need another step. We don't see the benefit to saying, okay, here are the plans, Bill, look at them again, but you've already looked at them the first time. But for the site triangle in the wall, I acknowledge that. Our plans aren't gonna change, so we would prefer not to have any conditions that require us to provide final plans for review and approval. What we'd like to do is strike those 3 conditions and have the final set of plans before you at your next hearing on August 4th, and call those the final plans. And those are the plans that the project would be built on.
I looked at Dan for an answer.
Yeah, if there's an issue with those plans, what do we do?
Well, if the plans need to be changed, there's a modification process under the regulations in the permit itself. So if we had to modify the plans, say we had to change change the sidewalk from 4 feet to 3 feet, under the regulations, we would have to come to you and say, this is what we want to change in the permit, or we want to change it from 3 feet to 4 feet. At that time, you would make a determination whether it's a substantial change or an insubstantial change. If you were to deem an insubstantial change, and there's factors in the regulations that you'd consider, you guys could approve it, or you could do nothing, and in 2 days it's deemed approved. If it was a substantial change, if you deem it a substantial change, it's a public hearing on the change itself.
Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, on every 40B project, we've always had, the process was set up so that would always be a final submission. I acknowledge that there's probably not much left for Bill to look at, except there were test pits that need to be done, right? And
They're all done.
So our review of the final plans is usually to make sure that the final plans conform to the conditions of approval. Because sometimes there's conditions in there that require certain things that maybe weren't on the plans. Could be certain signs, things like that. It's up to the board, but our review of the final plans isn't really a design review per se. We're not reviewing the design again. We're only reviewing to make sure that the plans are consistent with the board's conditions of approval.
It's really kind of analogous to what you just did for 194 Main, really, isn't it? In a way.
I mean, I don't think this is really a burdensome requirement, because if the work's already done, you just submit what you've done, and
I think that's what we're saying, that we, on the next meeting, those are the final plans, and those two items we're gonna add, the triangle and the wall. The wall's added, what was the other one?
The site triangle's added, we broke up the parcels,
Yeah.
the lots into the parcels.
We have to
And,
label the walkway detail.
And those are the final plans, and we'd like them signed. at
So
the
when
next
will
meeting.
those plans will be available? Not until August
So,
4th?
so what we would, I think as we go through these conditions, if there's something that were to pop up tonight, say a sign, I don't know, we can make the change and have it before you, I don't know, when,
Next week.
next week, I
He helps
guess.
the lead to add stuff.
so, but what, I thought, are all the test pits done? I'm looking at your letter, it says we need more test pits, no?
No, I think all the test pits have been done that we asked for.
And I think the septics are all designed too,
What-
right?
What was the last date of your letter? Am I looking at an old letter?
We submitted one on June 15th.
No, July 9th?
July 9th. Maybe I have an old copy.
Yeah, comment 48. There were some test pits that were remaining to be done in some of the area, in the drainage areas.
If that was a comment, those were done, so if that wasn't acknowledged as being done, they were done,
Okay.
yeah. We looked at them, yeah. There were some adjustments made.
All right. Maybe you can correct that on your letter and send it, because right now it says, providing on-site test pit data is a condition of the approval of comments resolved. So it sounded like you still have to get data.
Yeah, I don't think it's a time issue. The plans will be drawn. Just, I feel more comfortable, get the final plans drawn, we'll make sure they match the conditions, and then if we're all there, we'll endorse it.
I think we're talking the same thing.
I think you are. I think this just relates to that comment, isn't it, Dan? The stormwater stuff?
Well, I guess my concern of deleting these conditions is that
Okay.
now we're setting a precedent for future projects where, I'd rather just keep it in here. I don't think it's a burden to the applicant. I don't see, like, we could close the hearing tonight rather than the 4th, right? Issue the decision, and then next week you can still file the plans.
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess if we have a consensus here, if you were to leave the plans in and we show up on the 4th of the plans, that the board acknowledges that the plans we're submitting are the final plans. I mean, we're just trying to avoid a second step, that's all.
And I know there was some vacation issues. We're trying to wrap it up.
As long as
That's
Bill
on
has
you.
time to review them and compare them to the conditions, I think.
And I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, if we get them to you, if Bill has a week, I guess, to review them, is that enough time? And then when we show up on the 8th, those are the final plans. Bill can give him his blessing and.
Does that work for you guys, or?
Yeah, that works for us.
I mean, I see ourselves finalizing this tonight, so you'll have the conditions, you'll submit the plans next week, we'll
Right.
have a week to review it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because the 4th is in 2
This
weeks.
protects
So
us.
if I got
I'd
it
rather-
Tuesday,
I think these three
that'd be okay?
protect
Say
the
Tuesday?
ZBA and the town more so than, just being able to get a final, everybody's eyes on the finals.
Yeah.
Is
I'd rather-
realistically what this is trying to kind of skirt in one sense, but not really. I don't think they're trying to throw something by.
No,
It's
no,
just
no,
that-
no,
It's
like I
just to
said.
avoid a step.
Right.
Because the plans are already done in reality. I completely agree with that, but let's get everybody to sign off on it is kind of what happens on the final plans. So that we know these are the final ones.
So you'll draft the final plans. Bill will take a look at them. They'll come before us. We'll discuss it. If they match the conditions, and we agree, we'll endorse them.
But I do feel better keeping these in.
Let me just ask a question. Indulge me for a moment. It's really no different, just to make sure, of Bill reviewing, like we just did for 194, the final plans prior to endorsement to make sure everything's addressed, right? Isn't that the same thing essentially, or not?
I believe it is.
Okay. Which is what we do. So, and that would be his sign off that.
Correct.
Okay. You're not gonna sign the plans until the appeal period's over anyway, so.
Yeah, you didn't want this.
Well,
to endorse it before that.
again, I don't,
We wouldn't endorse it until the appeal period's over.
yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, to be perfectly honest. I'd like to file with you and get Bill's blessing on the third anyways. Whether you guys endorse it that night or not is fine. I'd rather have them all signed off, let the appeal period run, and then at your next meeting in February, September, I guess, then endorse the plans then.
Yeah, you would have, conceptually, it's fine, but it's still gotta go run the appeal period, and that, is that,
Right,
yeah.
yep, that's fine.
They're not gonna endorse it until.
Right.
Okay.
That's not how it works at the planning board.
Yeah, it does.
They endorse the plans and then the clerk holds them for the 21 days.
Not if you got conditions.
Okay.
We always have, I mean, I don't say always, but there typically is something.
I think the bottom line is get the plans drawn, let's have them reviewed, we'll be here, come back, let's move forward.
Seems like this is in a good place right now.
Yeah.
With the board's permission, I assume you're okay if Jamie and I work together if there's any minor changes that have to be made before they come back to the plans.
I'd encourage that, yes.
Yeah, it makes it better for that next meeting, yes.
Okay.
Next.
So in A6, again, this is probably one of Dan's, from final to approved, and
Yeah.
maybe it was something that Dan had picked up along the way. A7, what we changed it to is the decision shall be noted on the endorsed approved plans in both this decision and the lotting plan. So we're trying to avoid recording the whole set and just having you guys sign a Mylar for the lotting sheet and recording that alone,
Along with the decision.
along with the decision, right?
I'm looking at Dan.
Why do we want to record the whole set?
It's expensive now.
Yeah, it adds up.
I mean, reality.
It's gonna be a file with you guys, you're gonna have the full set endorsed. What we're doing for 194 Main Street is we're supposed to be taking a set, Jamie's gonna scan it, you guys are gonna have a PDF copy of it, it cuts down the paper.
Yeah, I'm not sure unless you tell me otherwise, there's really not a benefit to the Registry of Deeds.
The benefits for future title examiners
I was gonna say for years,
you know, if
But
they
but
read
all
the,
those deeds, I'm not sure they're gonna be concerned about that.
It goes either way.
if a title examiner or some lawyer who's representing a future buyer reads the comprehensive permit and there's references there to the easement area or the lamp posts or, you know, whatever, and they wanna see the plan that shows that stuff, they're not gonna see all the details in a lotting plan. The lotting plan is just the lots, and it's not a big deal.
Well,
It's
the
just-
easements would be on there also.
They are.
All the easements are on the lotting
Yeah,
plan, right?
I think what you're referring to is more specific, I don't know, construction, maybe.
Yeah, who needs to see the details of a catch basin on a recorded plan at the Registry of Deeds? That's
But certainly on
my.
a title examination standpoint, I think all the easements would be on there.
Mhm.
the lots will be identified, meets and bounds.
Yep.
I don't think there'd be anything off from a title standpoint.
It's typically how it's done. It's a one sheet, the layout sheet is recorded.
Well,
In this town, it's done.
Depends
that
on
way.
the town, yeah.
Yeah, every town is different in how they handle it. So in condition A8, we didn't make any changes from what Dan had said previously. In A9, this,
Let's go back on the other,
sure,
what's the planning board doing, Rich, with the plans? How many are they requiring for?
Well, they record, yeah, they want all the plan sheets recorded on site plans, which is even a whole nother story, but, they did record the whole last subdivision, but that was quite a few years ago. Now, I will say this, in terms of what you've done collectively, the enclave that it was a lotting sheets that are being recorded. The same thing with Abbeville, just the lotting sheets that were recorded, and all the detail plans that, that we have. We have paper copies and we have electronic record of those here. So, yeah, again, the past practice is.
Well, that's the practice in Norfolk. I didn't realize that. If that's the practice, then we should probably just stick with the line plan. So, hope that we never lose those plans.
condition A8, we didn't make any changes, we just provided a date. A9, we added in with respect to monitoring of the construction, and we added in accordance with the subdivision plan, observation, inspection checklist. That was circulated to you folks today. Do you have that?
I brought paper copies if need be.
So what that form was, is on 194 Main Street, we got into the issues of, what does the engineer need to inspect, what shouldn't they inspect, and so on and so forth. And Rich, Bill, Al, and Jamie sat down and they came up with this modified form that kind of spelled out what needed to be inspected on behalf of the town to do the permit.
But that was on 194.
That was on 194. This afternoon, we had taken that and modified it slightly.
Yep.
I don't know if Bill had an opportunity to look at it yet or not.
I have.
So what we were hoping for is to use this as what needs to be inspected by the town and by whom. Some of the items on there have to do with roadway inspection, and, do we need Beta out there full-time to review the construction or observe the construction of a subdivision road? And I think the answer, from our perspective, is no. We're gonna do the testing, we're gonna do the compaction tests. It's a private way, and I think that's the key detail, it's a private way. If this was gonna be a town-accepted way, then maybe all the other inspections under the subdivision rules and regulations may be more appropriate. So what we tried to do is take what we had agreed to before for 194 Main Street and tailor it to this project.
Yeah, so like Mike was saying, what we did was, in this case, instead of parking lot, we put down private roadway. On 194 Main Street, we had the fire alarm system to be inspected by fire chief. We're not gonna need that. Here, we have single-family houses. And so basically, all we did was small tweaks to go through and tailor it more towards this project. But I think the body of it's pretty much still the same.
And in fairness to Bill, if you guys wanna kick it around next week,
Yeah, I think,
and you talk, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I just wanna-
That just came off
it
the
did.
line this afternoon.
This was this afternoon thing, so I think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think we'd wanna talk about it, make sure
Hmm?
the town is comfortable with
Yeah.
what they're gonna get for inspections.
Yeah.
And just because it's gonna be private, I don't wanna cut corners on these things. I want it properly reviewed.
I think this is in keeping, I mean, we're talking 8 lots and not 36 lots, and I think we've kept all the same inspections, so I think you're gonna find it.
Yeah,
No, they're still gonna get occupancy permits, I mean, they're still like, they have to do with the building inspector and all that. I do believe that the DPW still has to go through that and make sure they have all the fire alarm systems and all that, so.
There has to be sign off by you guys, Bill reviews an as-built plan.
Yeah, we just want to go back through it, because I would say there's probably some gaps in some of the previous, for sure.
And the one thing we wanted
I'm
to
not talking about you I'm not talking about
Gaps.
yeah, I call them gaps, I just want to make sure we have it covered, because in retrospect,
It's a small subdivision, but that's somewhat irrelevant. I still want to make sure that it's properly
Yeah.
reviewed, whether it's 1 or 100. I don't. I want to have the
for
right
future
people.
residents.
Right,
So,
for everybody who's
Yeah,
going to
sure.
use that road at some point.
Well, the example is the gravel base of the private road. Is
Yeah.
one inspection enough? I guess I look to Bill for that answer.
Yeah, I think it's something we wanna talk about.
I agree.
I mean, the intent with these, even with the subdivision inspections, is never that you're gonna have an inspector out there full-time doing all the work. The idea is you wanna have it frequently enough so that the town and the board is comfortable that it's being constructed properly in accordance with the plans and whatever conditions you have.
Yeah, and while this is a starting point,
Mhm.
you know, we don't have the DPW here tonight to address this. So I don't know how they, would say, yeah, we feel comfortable as being the responsible party to do that.
I think the areas that the DPW's listed, Mr. Chair, is, it comes from the actual table in the Form K2
Yeah.
and K1. So all we did was we took it from the requirement when we broke down 194. So I think this is what the zoning board's regs or planning board regs actually defer to.
the only thing I might suggest, Jamie, is you
Mhm.
might want to add, I know we have the board, like the septic system stuff, you might want to just add that on there in terms of that the Board of Health does that, you know what I mean? Just,
That's
I think
number
we have
3.
that in there.
is it on there?
That's
Number 3.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I-
jeez, great eyes.
Well, this, you and Bill already beat this up on 194. I think that maybe the 4 of us came up with it, but I'm open to discussion on
No,
this.
yeah, no, just want to kind of,
I think when you go down to C18, also it talks a little bit about it, but that's a little later.
In the conditions.
conditions.
Okay.
Alright, so it sounds like we can keep this language, it's just that the document itself needs to be
Yeah, it just needs a,
discussed and agreed upon,
Yep.
so.
yeah.
I'm in agreement with that.
Condition A10, we didn't make any changes. Again, if Dan had made changes in his edits today, they're not reflected here. A11, we left the main body, and at the end of it, we added the building commissioner shall issue foundation permits only at $500 per foundation. The balance of the building permit fee shall be paid at the time the full building permit application is submitted. And that is consistent with the waiver sections, which kind of like a belt and suspenders approach. A12, we didn't change. A13, we didn't change. Again, B1A, it's tied to the plans that we've already discussed. Let me see. B, Dan had knocked off. C, we did not change. If you could go to the next page, Stephanie, please.
Did you change B1?
C is not changed. If you could go down one more, please.
Is all this going away?
Yeah.
Well, you can't, I don't think 1A can go if we're putting 1, 2, and 3, or 2, 3,
Well-
and 4 back in.
I don't disagree with that. I don't
Okay.
disagree with that. That's related to what we had talked about.
That's
So if
related
it's
to
got
the
a-
ones
yeah.
that we're putting,
Right.
we're
Yep.
keeping them
Yep.
back in.
How about B and?
B, we didn't strike paragraph B.
That you, Dan, who struck the rest?
Yeah, I took that out because it's, so this is construction management plan conditions that we have for bigger projects, and, there's actually condition B5 in here that I think covers
Oh, okay.
concerns, and I would defer to Bill on this if, construction management planning is really important for big projects with a lot of truck traffic and impacts on neighbors. This didn't seem like a project that needs one, from my perspective, and I thought B5 covered it, but.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and there's also construction staging and erosion control plan in the plan set as well.
All right.
So,
So, paragraph D, we didn't change in the draft. E and F, we didn't change. We struck paragraph G, it refers to the NIPD's filing. I think Dan pointed this out last time. I don't think we need it here. because all of the stormwater is handled on site.
Well, it's, yeah, there's no water of the US that's receiving any discharge.
Yeah, we went through this on, 25 Rockwood, all the stormwater is contained on site, and the use permit doesn't apply.
Excuse me, Council, can we just take a 5-minute quick break?
Yep.
Mind?
And turn it off for 5 minutes? No, you go. You wanna know if he wants to turn it off for 5 minutes? You have to turn it-
Paragraph H, we,
Hold on 1 second.
We back on?
Back on.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, paragraph H, that was not changed from the version we had looked at from Dan. Paragraph I, we did make some changes, and it had to do with the amount of fees being escrowed and all this stuff. There was an initial deposit of 10,000 that was asked for, then a replenishment of 5 grand, and then an automatic renewal at any time it went below 1,000.
I'm sorry, are you on H?
I'm on I.
What about D? You skipped over.
D, E, and F, I said that we hadn't made any changes to those.
I've got red lines on D here. D2? Aren't those yours?
Section.
I don't have a red line on
I don't have a red line on that.
About D2I?
Yeah, D2.
After,
Oh, you're still in D?
yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, You jumped ahead.
He's on little H, not big H.
Yeah, little I.
Okay, sorry.
I'm following the screen, so I apologize. So we changed the amounts to 2,500 and 500. I believe that's the standard in Norfolk for review fees and what gets deposited.
No, you did 2,000, 2,000, and 500. Yeah.
Honest, yeah.
So what,
Well, below 500, you replenish it to 2,000. Typically, I've always given $2,000. Rocco Plaza, La Plaza, the gas station.
so the way, in terms of the deposit with the planning board, I'm talking specifically to them, it's 2,000, and then what would happen is, with Beta, they would develop a scope for all the work associated with that, and then they would submit the delta difference to that, before, so it's,
So the floor was always 2,000.
yeah,
That's the initial deposit.
that's the initial deposit, and then I would ask them to generate, scope and fee, based on the inspection work that needs to be done. And then they would then submit whoever the applicant is, the delta. Once we have that money, then they could then go forward and do their inspection, their observational work. I mean,
Is it really that predictable? Like, I would think that the amount of trips that Beta has to come out would depend on how good a job.
oh, yeah, no, I mean, the predictable amount is well, the deposit is, but not invariably. I don't think there's one that matches the other. They're all, because they'll take the plan set, with the permit, the plans, the permit, and go through it to see what all needs to be observed, and then generate the scope of the fee off of that.
And then based on that, the escrow account would be funded.
And then the escrow account gets funded based on that amount. So let's say hypothetically, it's $10,000 or $11,000. If 2 went in now, I needed 9,000 more from the applicant to have them do their work. and go forward.
Our scope of work will include an assumption on a certain amount of site visits for observations, things like that. And it can vary depending on how the construction goes. If everything's going very smoothly, it may very well be that we spend less time out there. If there's more issues, we're gonna spend more time out there. We would have to adjust our scope and adjust the deposit.
So once the scope's adjusted, does it then go back to the applicant?
Yeah, they have to, yes, so,
The 2,000 is in the planning board regs.
yeah.
Right, no, I
So
understand.
for example, yeah, so we've had, some more observational work or plan work that needs to be done, then we've got to adjust and get the fee associated with that, so.
Is this consistent with what we've done on 194 or some of the others?
I don't.
I think where 194 was a bigger project, I think we were comfortable with the higher dollar values. But here where it's only 8 lots as opposed to 36.
Is your scope, what do you think your scope, your fee would be, like the predicted fee?
I don't know. I mean,
Like 10,000?
10 grand. Then see? Sorry. I figured there was a reason why it was there, no?
No, it's gonna, yeah.
It's a revolving account.
Initial scope before changes, yeah. I don't know, it might be 10 grand, it's gonna depend on us sitting down and going through the inspection checklist.
Yeah, we do the pre-con meeting, the pre-construction, that, erosion control, the whole stand. Some of the other ones are bigger projects, so scale, I mean, is,
We just keep it, the balance in there, the ridge for your next project out,
Don't worry,
But
your department is not shy about collecting money. I wish I had collected.
but generally, whatever our scope and fee ends up being what we estimate to begin with, I think to be deposited with the town before the town can us a notice to proceed with the
Right.
work.
That's not what this says right now, this says deposit 10,000, just keep it at, replenish it at 10,000.
Well, that's what we agreed to with the 36 units. This is 8.
I know, but this also doesn't have the language that Bill just said, so is that okay with you? If he comes back with a quote of 10,000, you're gonna have to put 10,000 in?
To pay it all up front, unlike
That's-
how it's normally done.
Well, that's how it's normally done, right?
no, that's what we've been doing.
That's what he just, right.
Yeah.
He said he'd get the scope of work after a reasonable preliminary
that's what
review.
So
been-
what's the 2,000 for?
It's a deposit
For what?
for the observations.
Yes, deposit.
Yes.
Opens the account.
It's,
Right, it's
Over
a
the
minimum
account.
deposit.
it's,
It's that with Trevor?
no, it's a, I mean, I guess I'd say it's a good.
Pretty much I'm
There
going
is
along.
something in terms of, there's a deposit in there, and then, like I just said, I'll send the decision and the plans out to Beta, and then they'll return back based on the scope of the project, give me an estimate with the scope and fee. The applicant's gotta acknowledge that's what it is, and then there's a.
That's not what this says.
No, it doesn't say that.
get written up now.
So the applicant, what would you prefer? That or the language I drafted?
I don't know. Dan, whatever you say.
This is simpler than the other thing, but,
Yeah.
I mean, but,
I'm not trying to skirt paying any fees.
no, I know.
You know, what happens if, you know, it just seems that you put 10,000 in the account, 10,000 will get withdrawn.
I'll still, so we will still
I won't
get
get
a
any of it.
scope. So for example, the other ones, like Rockwood Road and the other ones, we still get a scope and enclave and so forth. So the scope is still generated and the fee associated with it, it's just a matter of,
Yeah, it just seems like you start with the minimum deposit of $2,000, work commences, immediately to get Bill and his firm paid, it's gonna immediately go below that, so you gotta put money in, so.
oh, he can't start work. No, we need
On
the
this,
money.
on this he can.
Well, that's not the way it would work. So, it's gotta be funded before the work can start, so that's.
So why don't we add that in there?
So, from our perspective, and I think Rich was saying the same thing,
Why don't we agree on the scope? Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
in order for the town to say to Beta, we agree with your scope that says $10,000, we need to know that there's $10,000 available. We can't start work on a $10,000 scope and fee with only $2,000 in the
Right,
town's
right.
account.
Exactly.
Well, I will say this, though, I mean, you know, substantial portion of that is a final as-built review. That might happen 12-plus months, and so do you need that money shown in the account for something that's gonna happen a year from now?
So the way that, the way that can be handled is the town could, in our scope and fee, we can break it out by items. The town can authorize certain items now and authorize other items subsequently, like the as-built. That's one way to handle it.
I think we can agree to something, right?
Yeah, we can, it's,
How about if the escrow account shall maintain replenished or maintained at $2,000 and funded to the extent of the scope?
Fine. Timeline and scope.
I'm just like confused how it, like, what's crossed out and what's staying, like the second line, is that $25,000 being turned into $5,000 or?
2,000. 2,000, right.
So the scratch at the five, okay.
Correct. That was the language from 194,
Oh, yes,
and this
yes.
is a smaller project, so we're just trying to,
yeah.
the minimum will be 2,000. Scope of work comes in, it gets funded to the full scope based on the timeline. And if it ever goes below 2,000, it has to be funded back up to 2,000.
I don't know about Bill, but I think oftentimes a project, it doesn't matter what project it is, there's an automatic, cost to it. I can't imagine that 194 is 10 grand and then all of a sudden we're down to 2 grand for 8 units. There's an automatic, just to show up, contractors, just to show up on a job site is, is a certain amount, and then the scope goes from there, but.
Well, I think this is the minimum balance is 2,000,
It won't last you long.
and then he gets the scope, and it gets funded to the scope.
How about if we make the minimum
No,
balance
that's
5,000?
fine, too. I don't mind that.
What if we make it 5,000? How's that sound?
Well,
It's not the
like he just said, if you start with a fund, and then the scope comes in, and the scope is, X amount of dollars above that initial thing, then it has to be funded to the scope.
Right.
I mean, if you wanna put the scope up, we can talk about the items, but I can show you that there's the delta between the start of something that Bill may observe to the completion could be 12 months or greater, so I agree. I mean, if you wanna put a numerical value on inspecting the erosion control and another one inspecting this and another one, we can look at that and determine it that way. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, from our point of view, when the town gives us the okay for, approves our scope and fee, gives us a notice to proceed, I think they can only give us a notice to proceed based on the money that you have in your account.
Correct.
You can't authorize us for excuse me, $10,000
right.
with only $2,000 in your account.
Right, and that's why I'm recommending minimum $2,000.
You offered 5.
He offered 5. Up to the amount, and fully funded up to the amount of the scope.
Goes to, how
I don't
can
know
we
how
write
can
this
do
up
anything
there?
other- We can't authorize the work
And then where it falls
below
below,
2.
when it falls below 2,000?
The minimum is 1,000.
Yep.
Scope comes in 8,000. It has to be fully funded to the amount of the scope.
So then how does it fall below that?
But if the scope is,
Worried about it.
well, that would be driven by you.
Yeah, wasn't Rockwood a problem? Wasn't there a lot of inspections at Rockwood that you weren't planning on and?
Yeah, no, I mean,
So,
There were certain elements that we had to spend more time on.
things happen, so.
the field condition, I mean, so we have field conditions that required, more work back and forth. And we're just talking in general, just to give an example of, not, there's a road, 25 Rockwood Road, I'm just giving an example. And we had to go back and forth between the design engineer and Beta to square it away. So that actually changed the scope a little bit, because there was more of that based on the field condition that we need to have verified. So, yeah, stuff happens so that's the idea of it. So if you're saying starting at,
5?
suggesting 5,
Just curious, on how did we
Al
get to
suggested
$10,000
5.
for 194? Did you put a proposal together?
I propose it together.
No. So we picked the number. It's a 8,000 gallon septic system, 36 units, pretty substantial parking lot, and we came up with the figure. So I'm just trying to figure out, how did we resolve that? And can we use those same tactics to resolve this?
I just don't know how we can authorize any work without the funding.
Well, we did
Well,
it
we
in
can't-
194, right?
well, he hasn't done any work.
Well, there's no
So, yeah, there's no,
But we came up with numbers with no scope.
I didn't know that Beta needed to see the entire amount funded. I didn't know that was a requirement for Beta, and so that's why my language doesn't include that.
I'm not sure it's only a requirement for us, I thought it was a requirement for the town, that you can't authorize, excuse me, you can't authorize more
Yeah.
work than you have funding for.
Right.
yeah, I can't fund something without.
No, but can't we stop the work if the funding drops below?
Well, that's essentially, I think, what Al's kind of talking about. You're doing it, so there's a scope to a certain progression of the construction that's fully funded, and then we can't go past that until we're funded,
Correct.
which
And if,
there might
And that
be,
would only be if the scope changes.
right. There might be a logical point for that to happen. I just want to be.
I just don't feel like this is like the approval process today, where Bill submits a number and I pay it because we're gonna get to this point and we're gonna need to know that he's paid. This is ongoing and will change. And so I don't think the spirit of it is that it has to be 100% fully funded. The number is unknown.
so from,
But we can't authorize the work.
so
Well,
from
how
our
did-
standpoint, another approach might be to just, we can put together a scope for what we think the whole thing is, and you only authorize whatever number was $5,000 or $10,000, and that takes us to a certain, and then we
Yeah,
we
that's what I
stop, but we don't go beyond that point.
That's fine.
That's what I thought happened.
Right.
But we
Yeah.
won't,
We've used this language for every 40B.
but we won't, for the town's sake, put a necessarily a line number in that you're authorizing. Because I don't wanna put the town in a position of authorizing money to pay us when you don't have that much money
Exactly.
available. So we can just put an upset limit in it, whatever that upset limit is $5,000 or $10,000, and, then it can get replenished if it falls below $2,000 or whatever number you decide on. And if there's no more funding, we stop doing the work.
I don't think we were looking to change the language. We just were changing some of the numbers because of the size of the project. That's all.
You're trying to scale it.
Yeah, that's all. So if it's not 2 and 5 and if it drops below the number, I'm
Are you
good.
Are you okay with that? Because ultimately it comes back to your office.
Yeah, no, we
right?
gotta
She'll be the
deal
one
with it, right.
authorizing it. You'll be, right.
I mean, should we make it 5?
I would think 5 would be safe.
Yeah.
That way, you know, we're not, you
2
know.
sounds low to me.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
two's too low. I mean, I'm sorry.
It's in the regulations.
I think,
So change the regs.
No, but what we've done, I'm just telling you the practice, how we operate it in terms of there is a deposit with the planning board, but then when you go forward with the project, send the plans to Beta, include the decision, and we come up with a scope and up for observations for each project. And then the applicant funds it, fully funds it, the whole entire thing, same thing as built review and everything. And then they go out and do their observations based off of that,
Up to that dollar amount.
up to that dollar amount.
And you only pay when the work's performed.
And I only pay them when they do the work, but I'm fully, yes, you're putting the money, fully funding that scope, but I have it. And if there's modifications to it, then it may need adjustments. But it's really talking about, it's, in my mind, a deposit, and then we do generate a scope of work accordingly. And then with the planning board, invariably, the 2,000 is way below what these end, I mean,
Right,
so
if you only
there
held,
is always an
if you only
adjustment.
held $2,000 or $5,000, whatever it is, you can only authorize that amount of work.
Right.
At
So,
any given time.
and so they get we get 2,000 as a deposit, we generate the scope, and then they fully fund the balance of it. If this was, I don't know, Bill.
We can do it that way, but I think,
could I propose something just based on some of the other review accounts that we have? I think just knowing sort of how the bills come in and knowing some of the numbers from Beta and also other consultants that we've used, I think 5,000 to start, and then a 1,200 replacement, and then 1,000 for follow. So therefore, if we know that bills that are needing to be paid, but we don't have the balance, that's the only time that I would be reaching out to Al to replenish the account. And I think that is a real comfortable place to be from an administrative perspective, not constantly having to tap you for more money, but also sort of finding a happy medium between, where you want to be and where you need to be.
And that scope of work, you'll.
So I apologize, but I hear a lot of that.
So basically, it's 5,000,
2,500, 1,000.
5,000,
25, and 1,000.
Replenish to 2,500
yeah,
when it goes below 1,000.
fine. Works for me.
and then the scope of work, it would be from
I
your.
still gotta do what I just told you?
Still gotta do
You
it.
still can only authorize up to 5,000.
Right, so, and if it's within there, then we're ready to go. I mean, if it's not, then it's not the.
Boys, you're asking.
Should it really be, I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, right? Shouldn't it be replenished to 5,000? I mean, is that enough to 2,500 to replenish? Cause
So I'm trying to consider the fact that it's a smaller project
yeah.
compared to some of the bigger ones. So that's sort of where I'm coming up with the
I
1,000.
just wanna avoid having to go back every week to get
Mhm.
another check, you know, and
What's
and
the
having to
1,000?
have a stop and start with Bill or his team.
Yeah, just
I like
drives up the cost.
Stephanie's idea.
It just
Be
means.
a little harsh on it.
it just-
I think the scope plays a big part
Oh,
of
it
that.
does.
And
Right.
if all of a sudden Bill's team comes back and says that it's gonna, the total scope is, 12 grand, well, that, like you said, over the 12 months, you're only gonna need $1,000 a month kind of thing. So the first 5,000 is gonna get you going, and then you go to 2,500 and you should be fine.
If I have to pay these guys 10 more minutes on this it'll equal the 5,000, so whatever you want.
So does that make sense, Dan, to write out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, B2, we struck this. Again, the final plans include signage details that includes all interior directional traffic signage as well as unit building location signage. I think our plans have stop signs, private ways, and is there anything else that it had?
Yeah, it has the unit location signage as well. So it has, yeah, it has the fire signs, the, stop signs. So, yep.
So is that sufficient to satisfy your requirement? Because to me, when I read this, it sounded like something more was asked for. So I guess the question, and I'll address it to Bill if the chairman's okay, is the signage Jamie has shown in the plans sufficient, in your opinion, to comply with this requirement?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I think what we reviewed before, we made some comments, I know there were changes.
Your last comment, though, in July 9th was, unit building location signs should be shown on the plans, and then install no parking signs adjacent to the curb opposite building number 9.
I think you're looking at the 194 Main Street letter.
You are.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Got it. All right, so we're good with signage?
Oh,
So-
actually, that's a good point. I was thinking 194 Main Street. We don't have, unit location signage. We did on 194.
Yeah,
But
you're gonna
not
have-
here, because it's not
You're
needed.
gonna have numbers up.
Right.
Correct, yep, correct. Yep,
So to answer your question, Dan, yes, or Mike, yes, I believe that we made some comments as we went through the review. I think all those comments were addressed as far as signage goes.
So then I have no issue if that condition stays then?
Right, we're not striking.
Right.
okay.
B3, fire department approved fire location shall be shown in the final plans. We haven't heard back from the chief. He's seen the plans, he's approved the turnaround. I'm
So-
assuming he's comfortable with what was
So
shown
we
in the
just
plans.
leave it and get the letter? I mean, just like we did?
Yeah, if you're not required to have hydrants, then this,
If you guys are comfortable with us, we can chase it down from the fire chief with Rich's assistance this week then.
You know, so you'll leave it and we'll just do what we just did with 194
fine.
Main?
All right, perfect.
Okay.
That should make sense.
Add 2 more hydrants, is that what you're saying?
No, I think 3.
Yeah.
B4, the final plan shall include a sheet showing the location of the proposed erosion control devices. We struck this because our plans already had it. Again, if we're making reference to the final plans, we're okay with it. If you could go down to the next page below B4. The second part of that, I think, should be struck because it talks about the, we're still doing the SWIP though, right?
No
So
SWIP needed.
we don't need to do the SWIP, so the last sentence, the last 2 sentences, we're asking to be struck.
the last 2 sentences, what, before?
Yeah, where Carrie's radio again, stuff here.
How'd you take the whole thing out?
Well, we're okay leaving that in because it has an erosion control plan already.
Just about the stormwater
Just
pollution
about this-
plan.
So the first sentence stays?
Yeah, because that's, we already have that produced.
Yep.
And again, our thought was, why produce it again when you've already seen it? But if the final plans are gonna be the final plans, I'm okay with it.
But you're meeting the condition, which is what it does.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Bill, are you satisfied with?
Yeah, so the SWIP, the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, is part of the NIPD's permit with EPA, and in this case, because all the stormwater is contained on site, there's no NIPD's filing with EPA, so the SWIP would be required.
B5, again, similarly, we struck it because of the final plans, but do we have this stuff on our plans right now, the noise and dust control measures, Jamie, fill delivery schedules?
No. We do have a stockpile area. Yeah, no.
And I think we gotta keep this, and I took out the construction management plan, so this is all that's left for those type of details.
Could we do it instead of a plan set, maybe a written plan that describes these activities similar to what we did for the CMP for 194 Main Street? Instead of doing a new site plans that show this, just do it by description?
If it's okay with the board and everybody, we could do a little packet describing how we're gonna handle control measures and include exhibits showing where, staging areas may be as accessory to the approval.
I mean, kind of moving towards a,
A sweat.
well, no, a construction management
Oh,
plan.
yeah, CMP, yeah.
Right.
I think it could be a very short report that outlines, dust control, noise control, those types of construction operations issues.
Yeah, we're not looking for anything complicated if we can keep
As
something
opposed to just
condensed.
making it a formal plan.
Right,
you're gonna
exactly.
Have a packet for us,
Exactly,
and that'll be part of the conditions.
and we'd be okay with that.
Well, I mean, that's typically something you'd have on a sheet on a plan set, wouldn't you? I mean, couldn't you just put those notes on a sheet? And that way, when you submit it, it's all together with the plans.
I mean, we could. We could.
I mean, I just think that would be more organized to have it together with the plans, but.
Usually the way that we do it is similar to like a drainage report. Just like in the drainage report, we have an operation and maintenance plan. Well, I mean, it was asked that we add the operation and maintenance to the plan set, so it's on the last sheet of the detail sheets. All we did was take and scan in the 3 pages and put them onto the big plan. We can do the same thing. We'd type up a report with exhibits and then we'd put it all onto a big 24 by 36 sheet, if that's the pleasure of the board.
That works. What, is that?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, either way works, because if you submit a separate written document, it still becomes part of the record, still has to be maintained on site. So,
Yep.
Kind of,
Think
I think
either
I like it
way
better with
works.
the plan.
I kinda like the plan, that way it's all together in the document.
In reality, when we're building this thing, there's no way we can work through all these sheets of this plan. We'll probably pull 4 or 5 out,
Right.
and the rest are for you guys.
I don't wanna hear that, but.
All right, so
So why
we'll,
don't we just say, shall include a plan sheet?
That's fine.
Final plan shall include construction sequencing and management plan sheet. We'll keep the rest of it in, we'll take out the sentence that says NIPPES.
Yes.
SWIP and NIPPES, you don't.
SWIP too, yep.
Again, I'll just jump with the chairman's permission. B6, the final plan shall include a stormwater management system operation and maintenance plan, which shall be referenced in the HOA trust. I have no problem referencing in the trust, but the stormwater management plan is part of the stormwater review, is it not? So it's kind of duplicative, and I'm not
Where
sure
are you,
it's.
Mike?
B6, Al.
6.
It's already there.
Yeah, we have it on the final detail sheet.
You're on the,
of
okay,
plan
then that's
set.
fine,
Yep.
okay. Again, B2, well, it's showing up as B2 here, it should be whatever the next sequencing number is. Again, previously, we talked about recording a lotting plan in the decision, and then proof of the same being for the ZBA before approval of building permit. We're okay with that. Jumping down to site development and construction conditions, C1, prior to the commencement of construction, a pre-construction meeting shall take place with, and shall meet with, and it lists out a bunch of department heads. I'd like to do it through Rich, and if Rich thought those folks were necessary to the pre-construction meeting, he can invite them.
Wait. I do that with them, so. Is this worded differently than the other one? I thought the other.
Are you concerned, Mike, that this sounds like you have to meet separately with all of these folks?
My concern is that, are you gonna get all these folks to a meeting at the same time?
Yes. We do.
You do, and it's through your office, so if Rich
Yeah,
could pull
so-
that together, so, I mean,
Yeah, that's what I do in practice, so when Al's ready to go,
We just wanna make it your obligation to
Right,
get
he-
everybody
he's saying-
together.
right,
You
it is
co-
my obligation, well, yeah,
You
all right.
coordinate,
Yeah.
they reach out to you.
Could it be written in a way that
And you-
says that you set it up with the
You
audience?
set the attendees and.
Yeah,
Yeah, the applicable parties. You know, if you see that the water department needs to be there or not, then you have them there.
Didn't we take this from the last?
That's our standard language.
You're wordsmithing it a little bit, I see what you're saying.
Oh, we took the numbers from the last one too.
Well, it is, that's who
Is that what we wanna do?
Yeah, you don't wanna extend the time.
Are you comfortable with that? You know, there might be practice, but now it's obligatory.
Fine.
Well, I wanna keep the people in there. I like,
I mean, as a practical matter, those people are probably gonna be more responsive to Rich asking them to come to a meeting than Jamie L. or myself, so.
So why don't we just have a sentence, the town planner.
I'll just
will
say held
request-
by me, and then the phone, or something.
Why don't you say the town planner will request the attendance of the
Yeah.
appropriate town officials?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right,
Fair enough. Paragraph C2, we had, the first section was okay. In the second sentence, we added in accordance with the subdivision plan observation inspection checklist. Again, that's referring to the inspections by the board. That's gonna be ironed out, it sounds like between Bill and Jamie and Rich and Al again, and, that's gonna be, defined. So that would be our only proposed change, in that paragraph. In C3, we made a slight change. The applicant shall conduct all construction activity in accordance with acceptable construction practices. And then we struck out as may governed by the Norfolk subdivision rules and regulations. And I think Rich hit on it earlier. It's, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there that, you know, may be antiquated. So if we can keep it consistent with construction practices, I think we're comfortable.
Thank you, Rich.
I think something we also realize in this is that Norfolk is different than most towns because we've overdone stuff. So there might be stuff in there that we don't know are applicable to the town of Norfolk. Says the building commissioner might have something to say about that, or the planning board might have something to say about that. To just strike that out, I almost,
What's the, I
don't
guess,
know.
what's the, wait, Del, what's the
I mean, really.
concern having it remain, I guess?
Yeah, I guess my point is, when you say acceptable construction practices, one could say that's the same in this town as Norfolk subdivision rules and regulations, because that's acceptable.
And we went through the waivers, so, I mean, you asked for waivers, a lot were granted, so it's.
I don't wanna go through this and then say, well, we're taking the construction practices from another town. And that's the reason, we've gone through all this. In this town, Norfolk believes their rules and regulations are acceptable construction practices. It defeats the purpose to open it up to other standards, I think.
sounds like you've done a lot in town already, Al. You probably know that.
As may, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Just run through the next bunch really quick. We haven't made any changes to C4, C5, C6, C7, C8, C9, C10. In C11, we've struck, I'm sorry, in C10, we did make a slight change. The applicant shall implement necessary traffic, and it said safety controls. We're not quite sure what safety controls is intended, so we think signage is probably more appropriate to direct people around the site. C11, the applicant and its successors are responsible for sweeping, removal of snow and sanding of the project's driveways, permitting access to residents, emergency vehicles, and others during construction. And then we've struck the final coat of pavement of the roadway shall be installed after the base course has endured a full winter season. We'd like to strike that. I mean, this 8-lot subdivision should go relatively quickly. We're gonna have inspections. We're gonna have compaction tests. We're working on virgin soil. There shouldn't be any settling or anything like that the board would need to be concerned with. Jamie's gonna be inspecting it. Bill will be out there a couple times, so I don't see any drawback to getting rid of that requirement.
Yeah, I don't know what the regular practice is. Do we normally have to wait till?
You're not getting rid of the final coat. You're
No.
just
No,
getting rid
just-
of
just it
the
has to-
year wait.
Right, it's the way.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, and I think it's in the subdivision regulations, There is a restriction during the winter when you can't put the final coat of paving on.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but just to have to wait until the spring
Yeah,
to,
no,
yeah.
Yeah, I think in this case it makes sense, not, if you finish the road in August, you don't wanna have to wait till the following spring. to
Right,
put
exactly.
the top course on. I think
Right.
that makes sense.
What's the point, what is the purpose of the requirement?
To lay asphalt in the winter?
Well, part of it is you don't wanna be paving during the winter. I think the other part, I'm guessing, thinking is that if you have trenches and things like that, you want things to be able to settle out. Usually they wait through the winter for trenches to settle out. In this case where it's new construction, the trenches will be done before the pavement's in, so there'll be good compaction of the trenches. So you won't have that issue of trenches tending to settle.
So which one is this again?
It's the 11.
So the practice is in terms of, you know, if you pave, so for example, that road that I just, well, you saw the catch basins on,
Frederickson.
Frederickson Road, that was paved last fall, so now it can, it went through the winter, so now then it could be accepted as a public way, so they wanna have it, the practice has been on the public ways that they wanna have it paved, and go through a winter season
But this is
with a
from the-
top coat.
Oh, okay.
What
No, this
happens
is
in
talking
the
about-
winter that causes, is it settling, or is it a frost
Frost,
heaves, or-
frost heaves and everything when you have utilities or Comcast or anybody else that digs across whatever, so the houses now get built, they've already done the scope, they dig across, then they all get paved with the rough coat, and then the rough coat settles over the winter, you know where you need to fill before you put the final coat on.
Tell you what, why don't we add an inspection prior to final coat? Look at the binder.
Yeah, that might already be in there.
I think it's already in there.
Well, then we're good.
I think I honestly, I don't
Well, the
think,
inspections are up to Bill.
yeah, I think
So
it's
If you're
fine.
okay with that, then.
Yeah, I don't think, I agree, I don't think in this case you have to wait through a winter with the top coat down.
I just wanna go back to C10 real quick on the traffic. It says the applicant shall implement necessary traffic and proposing to strike safety and put signage. Is that, are we getting away from?
It was supposed to be measures, not safety. It's safety signage is what, basically when the three of us were discussing it, I was the only one who has seen the term safety measures before in terms of traffic, and because it's used in Mass DOT. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is get proper signage, just, construction up ahead, trucks entering, something along those lines for Pine Street, stating that something's going on further up the road.
Yeah, what I'm leading towards is, what if there was a requirement or a need for a detail or,
Yep.
other things?
I think that's okay. We just didn't want it to be construed as you need a detail 24/7 while the work's ongoing. If Al is doing work in the street to tie into a water line and a detail is needed, we get that. I don't see an issue with that. It's just,
This doesn't say,
But-
It
just
well, it
says
does go on to
necessary.
say, it does say, any traffic problems that occur as a result shall be mitigated immediately at the expense of the applicant.
Yeah, and it's our
right,
understanding, we
yeah.
still have to get a curb cut from the selectmen, so it'll probably be part of their condition as well.
When you tap the water, you're gonna need a police
Yeah.
detail. When
Yeah,
you
it's,
do the curb cut, you're gonna need a police detail. There are mechanisms in the permits that
Yeah.
require these things.
is it the word safety you don't like?
I think
That's
it
just
was,
too open-ended.
I think it's just too open-ended.
It's like controls.
yeah, control
Yeah,
measures.
I don't know what a control is.
It- yeah.
Safety controls. Sounds to me like you want lights put up or something.
Yeah, or a
Yeah,
cop all the time.
I hear what
or-
you're saying.
Yeah.
Safety control sounds
Oh,
like
safety
lights or
control.
something of that
Yeah.
sort.
Safety measures,
Maybe
And I-
construction traffic management measures might be a better language.
Yeah, your verbiage is right from MassDOT. I've seen it, but it's not easy to explain to some people sometimes.
So traffic,
who's those some
management?
people, me?
No, no,
Huh?
no, Mike,
Traffic
Mike.
management, I think that's is relative to the construction.
All right, so construction, traffic, management,
So we talked about C11, C12, that's fine. G13, again, this talks about testing, and we're just, again, trying to refer to that one document that hopefully they can come to an agreement on, instead of having it just willy-nilly. C14,
Actually, before you jump off of that, why don't we, at this point, add that sentence that there shall be an inspection of the binder course prior to the final coat, prior to the installation of the final coat.
I think that's in there anyway.
It isn't?
I think it's in there.
I
That's
think it's on the list.
Oh, on
the
this list?
modified Form K. If not, we'll add it, certainly.
Yeah, it's not.
There's an inspection of the gravel base,
Mhm.
compaction
That's what we're gonna work
testing.
out.
Yep.
So you want to just add it to this?
Yeah, you might,
Yes.
on this, you might wanna add paving, yeah, there's no
Yeah.
paving on there, so.
You're gonna inspect the gravel, then you're gonna bind. And
So
then
inspect the binder.
you're gonna inspect the bind, and you're gonna do the top, and then you're gonna do an as-built, so.
Yep.
It's really all covered.
Yep, and the final site inspection too. Yep.
okay, C14, it talks about utilities, the underground utilities, and then it says the last sentence, a final utility plan approved by the applicable public utility shall be submitted to the consulting engineer. We're not sure why they would submit it to the consulting engineer.
What's this one?
The C14 now.
Okay.
So what we'd like to have it do, because the utilities, and please, Bill or Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are gonna work out where the utilities go with the applicable utility company, and you're gonna put it on a plan?
Typically, the utility company requests a copy of our plan, and then they tell us where they're gonna put it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There's not really
So,
much dialogue. It's here or nowhere.
so when we get the plan, instead of it going to Bill, it's gonna go to Jamie and Rich, is the changes we're asking for.
What's wrong with going to Bill, though? I mean, Bill is like the master of
No, it will
all
go,
the
it will definitely
inspections.
go to Bill.
We struck it.
It's to go to me.
No, this is what we talked about today.
Submitted to the site
We want
and
it to go to
consulting
you,
engineer.
we want it to go to you and Rich.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then, again, obviously, we can share it with Bill, I don't care, but I don't want the obligation to be that it has to go to Bill, because he's gonna kinda be out of the mix, no offense.
When is this done?
It's not something we're gonna review,
Right,
so,
so they're just
Oh,
gonna,
you wouldn't review this?
no.
No,
because
he's not reviewing, but
It would be nice for us to have it
you wanna have it
as
though.
part
I
of
mean,
our record for when we're out there on site.
Yeah.
But like Jamie says, the utility companies will dictate
Yep.
where their facilities go. We're not gonna review it, but we should know about it, so
Yeah.
when we're on site.
So when you're out there and something's in the wrong place, you can flag it.
and we'll provide a copy to the review engineer. I just didn't want it to say that Bill gets it and that's it, Bill doesn't like it, then everything is held up.
It's just get it to him for.
Just as
have a
courtesy
record.
copy,
Information.
yep.
All right.
Can you just say
It doesn't-
Bill
it
gets
doesn't say
copied in
subject
this?
to approval. It
Just
says-
say, he
Can you
gets,
just say Bill gets copied in this?
But that's what it says.
Yeah, it does say that, that's all it's saying, it's not an approval process.
My name.
You could actually put in there to the site and consulting engineer.
We don't need to put site in there, that's him.
I know.
It's his own condition.
I hear you.
I think you might be overthinking it a
Yeah,
little bit.
let's keep it the way it is.
That's fine, again,
Only 'cause
these things get twisted and
I hear you.
we
Well,
don't
he has
wanna.
no, like Jamie said, that's how it
If
works.
it said subject to approval, I would get your concern.
That's fine. C15, we struck the reference to the NIPD's permit. And then, final stabilization shall be accomplished by loaming and seeding exposed areas in accordance with the landscaping plans reviewed during the course of the public hearing. And again, Bill didn't review it technically, so we struck it. C16, we don't have an issue with that. C17, we don't have an issue with that. C18, again, the final plans, they reflect the construction materials and thickness, that's fine. We do object to all parking areas shall conform with applicable American Disabilities Act requirements.
Yeah, it's private. Our understanding is because it's private, that the ADA regs are not necessarily applicable.
You don't have any parking areas.
You were talking about driveways,
Exactly,
right?
driveways.
Right.
That's the only parking areas we have are
Yeah, and
driveways.
those don't stand to it. So-
Exactly.
Right.
So in reality, they're not considered parking areas.
I mean, it says applicable and whatever,
Yeah.
it's fine. We take it out.
C19 we're good with, C20 we're good with, 21, 22, 23, and 24 we're good with. D1, D2, we're okay with. D2, paragraph I, vehicle parking within the site shall be limited to only driveways. And then we had talked about no parking signs shall be installed and maintained on the roadway to prevent being outside the designated parking areas. We have no parking areas shown on the driveway coming up, right?
No, I don't believe we do.
I don't think there's any, no parking
No, we
signs.
did on 194.
Maybe it's 194 then.
194, yeah.
Okay. Again, we're concerned about the aesthetics, and we don't want to load up either side of the road with no parking signs, if we can avoid it.
What does this
So,
say?
is
I
there a way,
agree.
is there a way to put something up that says there's no parking
No,
on
why
the
can't you
road?
just do one small sign at the entrance? No parking on
Yeah,
the
we
back.
could do something like that. I wouldn't have an
Fine.
issue with that.
I think that's the intent, was just,
Yeah.
that
Right.
people
Fair
need to know they can't park in the road, that's
Yep.
pretty important.
All right, so,
The next paragraph, 2, the HOA trust shall be responsible in enforcing parking rules and shall fine. I think you want to change that to may. You know, if I'm living in a homeowners association, you don't want anyone going crazy saying, oh, I'm going to fine you, fine you, fine you, fine you. I mean, obviously, it's going to get up to a certain point where if you're not listening, they may want to do that, but shall's kind of a little strong.
So I'm sorry,
Mailbox doesn't look right.
I'm still making a change to the sign.
I think the shell on the side of the town is possibly the verbiage we want, because the town doesn't want you parking on that street at all. And sometimes fines are the only way to get people to do that. And because of the fire apparatuses and everything else, and because you made the little turnaround, we know that road's not wide enough to do all this. So the shall, from our standpoint as a town, to you, makes sense. The may, they're never gonna do it. They're never gonna fine them for it.
I guess, from my perspective, I mean, I don't know, I get the thought, but it seems a little harsh.
I mean, has there been any discussion about how this trust is going to be set up? Is it going to be fee simple? Is it every person's gonna have a portion of the trust? Are two people gonna be voted to be trustees? What is the, how is it gonna be set up?
Yes, right now, we're gonna set up, so there's gonna be, I think I had 3 trustees in my draft. Everyone, by acceptance of the deed, is gonna have an ownership interest in the common areas. And then the homeowners association is gonna enforce the rules and the regulations.
Do the trustees live?
Oh, yeah,
They
they have to be a
live
resident,
in
yeah.
there. And are they voted in, or are they?
Yes, they'll be voted in by the 8 unit owners.
Yeah, I agree with David. I think you need to have the mandatory language and
That may help you, yeah, if you have shall
put
in
in
there,
May,
yeah.
then it's not gonna happen.
There's a thing in.
And you gotta be able to warn somebody, come on, what kind
No,
of?
no, no, in Massachusetts, in reality, you have to do a due diligence. So in reality, you're supposed to warn them the first time, the second time you get a fine. This is saying, we want you to start that process today.
So put in repeated violations, is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you could
could
do
say
that
repeat,
too.
if it's repeated, I think there has to be a sign or something.
I'd be okay with repeated violations. That'd be fine.
There would have to be a sign about no parking, and it could be fine, too.
Subparagraph 3, we're okay with. D3, D4, D5, D6, we were okay with. D7, D8, D9, D10, 11, 12, we were okay with.
D7 had a change.
I don't have a page number on the bottom of mine.
No, I said
Yeah.
D7.
Yeah, from final to approved plans.
Final to approve?
I got those.
You got, yep.
Should go back
Oh,
to
I'm sorry,
final.
yep. The balance of the D section, we're okay with.
Did you have something to say, Dave?
No, that final should probably stay, because we said the finals are what you're gonna submit, and then we're gonna make sure there's a
So
final plan, so.
It won't say, it will say, it'll remain final, not approved, right?
Yeah, I made a whole bunch of changes.
Okay.
Actually, after Mike edited this, so.
Okay.
Mike
The affordability requirements, E1, we were okay with. E2, we were okay with. E3B, we're hoping to have the Italian descent have a priority.
What is that?
E3. The affordability restrictions, we were okay with. Everything else in section E was good. When we get down to F, the section F, that's where we would like to have some more conversation with you folks.
What, E3B, what is that?
Yeah.
The Italian descent.
Right. We need more Italians in this town.
I'm not arguing. I
We
think they
grow
got great
our-
pasta.
We grow our own food.
I married one, so it's good.
We step on our wine.
Yeah, but can we put in the
We don't
condi-
break into bonds at
Can we
night.
put that in the condition?
Oh, that's true, they did.
So in section F, F2, driveways, we struck the word sidewalks and refer to it as a walkway. It's more of a walkway than a sidewalk. And curbing is shown on the approved plans. We talked about that earlier on. F3, all traffic improvements shall be completed in accordance with standards set forth in the most recent edition of the MUTCD, and shall be in place prior to project occupancy. I'm not quite sure what traffic improvements need to be in place.
I think I just meant with the intersection of Pine Street, so is there a stop sign, a stop bar?
There's a stop sign, yep.
Okay.
Street light on the pole, right?
Ooh,
That's right.
I don't think that got in there.
It is shown on the plan set, though.
Yeah, I meant to put a condition in. What was that?
The light
Street
out
light,
on
the
utility
intersection,
pole.
the street entrance.
Utility light.
But in terms of the intersection of Pine Street, isn't that okay to?
If that's what that's intended to refer to, I'm okay with that.
I could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All traffic improvements associated with the intersection of Pine Street.
That's fine.
Okay.
F5, the roadway naming and numbering system and identification for the dwelling unit shall be subject to the approval of the fire chief. On 194 Main, I think Rich's office did it, so I don't know if there's a different procedure or,
No, we do it and then we send it to them anyway, just to.
okay. F6, outside grills shall not be permitted by the fire chief above ground level of any structures unless approved by the fire chief. There shall be no open burning permitted on the property. These restrictions shall be incorporated into the HOA trust documents. I don't think we have any second above-ground places where a grill could be set up, so I'm not terribly bothered by that. But the open burning permit, isn't there a provision in Norfolk where you're allowed to have fire pits?
No, you can cook food.
You can cook
Yes.
food.
On a,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
As long- You can have a fire in your backyard if you're
Right.
cooking marshmallows or things of that nature.
It's like a little fire pit.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, the little,
Yeah.
you can do a stone one, or,
I don't know. The prior fire chiefs have asked for this kind of stuff, that, there's a new fire chief, so.
So, do you have,
For a different project,
is this planned, this is planned to have wooden decks, is it not?
yes. Or patios.
Patios or wooden decks?
I think it's wooden decks right now, right?
Yeah, but it's not, there are a couple patios, I think.
Yeah,
aren't there?
yeah, I think we have,
There's-
But I think what this is saying is no grills on that patio, on that wooden deck.
Right.
But on the patio,
No,
it would
only
be
if it's
fine.
above the first floor.
Nope, it doesn't say that.
Yeah,
Above the
that's what it
ground
said.
level.
Above the ground level. Oh, yeah, all right. I see you're saying.
So
Yeah.
maybe it should say first floor level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and we were wondering if it was a carryover, because with 194.
Because the rule, the
two
rule,
families.
the Massachusetts rule is really no grills within 10 feet of a structure. So if you have a 10-foot deck, you realistically can't put a grill on that deck, according to the fire marshal codes of Massachusetts.
That is interesting.
Well, I have a patio.
You'd be surprised at how many insurance claims I've had with grills on decks.
So you wanna take out the open burning, is that an issue?
Well, yeah, we don't want a restriction on the open burning. And we're okay if we can change the first sentence to above the first floor. level of any structure.
Isn't that the same as the ground level? Is there a first floor that's above the ground level?
Well, I mean, the deck could be higher, a little higher than everything else.
Yeah.
What's the definition of ground level?
Ground level, I think, is
Yeah.
the first floor. I think you're fine. I think you could remove that whole thing and not even worry about it.
Right.
Because, I mean, in order to burn outside openly, they're gonna have to get a permit anyway from the fire department and/or have one of those little
The rings,
chimeneas or
yeah.
something out back to cook their marshmallows on.
Yep.
But do you want somebody to be able to get a burn permit?
No, I don't think so either.
I think we can take it out.
Take that out.
You do?
Yeah, we want people to be able to get their chimney or whatever it is and roast their marshmallows.
Yeah, but aren't these open burn permits, like to burn leaves and that kind of
That's
stuff?
different. That, you can't do that without a permit, period. And it's up to the fire department to
You need a
give it to you.
permit for that.
Yeah,
The
it's
fire
actually,
department may even deny you if your property's too small.
That's not gonna happen here, right?
No, I don't think
and
so,
it's,
but,
it's illegal to burn leaves. You can only burn like brush.
right, but even that requires the.
A permit,
town, right,
exactly.
yes,
Yep.
yes. Yeah, that's different from having a little,
Right.
whatever you call it, the chimney thing.
Yeah,
We'd-
exactly.
Our preference to have the whole thing struck.
I would,
F6, okay.
I would just strike it.
F7, vehicle parking in this site shall be limited to marked parking spaces only. I think this is a carryover from, yeah,
It's duplicative of.
Yeah.
We already have
all
this.
right. Again, well,
Well, actually, can we leave in that the police chief can enforce it though?
I think I'd be okay with that.
You might want to just change to the walkway though, right?
The police chief can enforce
Change it to
parking
the
issues.
walkway instead of the
in the roadway.
sidewalk there. Well, actually, you probably should do sidewalk/walkway, right? Because you got a little bit of sidewalk up front.
That's off the property. That's in the right of way.
That's in the right way, okay. So maybe then, it probably should say walkway then.
Sure, yeah.
In the last sentence, we struck it, but Jamie's gonna check with the fire chief. F8, there shall be a minimum fire access width of 10 feet between all structures and between structures. In the property boundary of the site, I don't think we have 10 feet in some locations, right?
To the property lines, we don't.
No, not to the property line.
Right.
Now,
Right,
the
this is-
outer boundary of the project, yes.
But the point of this is, this condition is always there, so if someone comes in and wants to put an addition on their house, it's within 10 feet. This condition is there to stop them.
There should be a minimum fire access width of 10 feet between all structures.
Yeah, and we're okay with that.
Between structures.
It's the property boundaries
Right.
of the site is where our concern is. Right now, we have, I think the closest we have is a 5.5-foot setback to a property line.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's to the individual property lines.
Right.
But I
Exactly.
think,
Right.
I think we're talking, I think this is the main
If
boundary.
it's
So
the
maybe
outer
you
boundary, then
change
we're
it to the
fine.
outer boundary of the site.
Or the original perimeter of the property.
Perimeter site.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
The
fine.
site is defined as the whole site, so it's, you wanna see a perimeter?
Yeah. F9, the final design of all driveways and parking areas shall be submitted to the fire chief. These are just regular driveways. I don't think the chief would care how they're designed. I think this is more appropriate for 194 Main, where you had to turn inside the parking area.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, doesn't the fire chief bless the fact that there's a little bit of a turnaround in there and everything?
Well, he's already
does.
blessed
Yeah,
the
this is-
turnaround.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is driveways only.
Okay, okay.
We
I-
have actually a letter from the fire chief?
We have some emails from him, but we're gonna approach him this week and try to get a final full sign-off.
We need that for the record. We need to
Yeah.
have something in writing, that the chief is okay with the turnaround and.
Yep, yeah, we have an email
So do you
stating.
want to leave this and just have them bless what was put on, shown on the plan? Because you have the details for all the driveways, the widths and radiuses and everything, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're gonna give them the plans, this would cover that.
Yeah,
So you could leave that in for now,
Yeah.
F9.
And we'll have them.
I think it's okay. I mean, you gotta
Because
check
you-
with them
Look at the
anyways.
plans and let them review it.
yep, that's,
In the
yeah,
end, he's
that's,
blessing
we
that he
have
can bring
to,
a fire truck in there.
But it says at the end, the minimum driveway length for the individual housing unit shall be 18 feet.
Yep.
Is that,
can you go to the plan set? Yeah, no, they all work.
I
Yep.
think 20 is the
I was gonna say, yeah, that one there is 17.
No, I even flipped the house on lot 3, because the driveway was going originally, I think, into the curve, and I flipped it to get the long driveway, so yeah, we're good on all of those for 18.
Even lot 6?
Yes.
The house jogs.
Yep.
So
Okay, gotcha.
17 is the.
Yep, gotcha.
F11, no building permit in the project shall be issued until the base coat of pavement for the portion of the driveway serving that building and appropriate turnaround for the fire apparatus have been installed. Access to all construction areas shall be sufficient for all Norfolk emergency vehicles. Again, the concern about this is how we're gonna build it and to be able to satisfy that.
Yeah, so when we were talking about it, from a basis, we have smaller lots here, tighter quarters. It's not gonna make sense for Al to have an excavator on lot 6 and be building on lot 4 across the way next and drive over a brand-new binder. And because of the site constraints, it's not necessarily gonna be so he can drive up and around either. So he'd drive the excavator over. Instead, we'd like to keep the gravel in place for the foundations component until we're at a point in which he's okay driving over, understanding he's gonna have to repair it. Not looking for occupancies, just looking to get the building permit process started, septics, foundations, utilities. Absolutely not occupancies though.
I think the last sentence is probably fine. I would keep the last sentence, because I think,
I'd
You
be
gotta
okay,
have
I'd be
access.
okay with that,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, I
not that you're
agree.
not gonna have it, but it's.
Right,
Yep.
yep.
Nope, we're fine with
You
that.
okay with that?
Why not say something like, I wouldn't say building, but buildings can't be capped, or foundations can't be capped and built on until binder code is in. Your construction vehicles are done, so you can have all your foundations, you could pour 8 foundations in a week, and you've got 8 foundations in. The backhoe does everything he needs to do, road comes in, they pave, the binder coat, and then the caps can start going up. I don't have a problem with any, but the problem is if you don't put a road in before you have construction vehicles in there, guys hammering and everything else, you're gonna, this last sentence means nothing.
Can I see that last sentence?
Yeah.
What number is it?
You gotta have something that delineates that it's a road,
Access to
that
all
it's,
construction areas shall be sufficient.
they're gonna be
for
parked everywhere.
emergency vehicles.
You want to have it to binder, right?
Yeah, you should have binder, I mean, sure, after the foundations and stuff in.
Yeah.
I can understand that, and that's part of the building permit process, I agree.
Yep.
But maybe we can word it so that
Yeah, and that,
no wooden structure or anything above the foundation until the road's in.
I think for the most part, that's what we were looking for, was to be able to get the majority of the heavy earthwork and not beat up the road that we're trying to preserve and keep nice.
But are you gonna do your foundations all at once?
I don't think that was ideal to do them all at once.
Like, if he's doing one house at a time, then.
Yeah, but we're not gonna look for an occupancy before the pavement's down.
I know, but
Um,
his point is during construction, if this.
Do you have a preference here, Al?
Yeah, I just don't.
I think that's what it's for, I think that's why it's there, I think
I don't
that's,
wanna be pigeonholed into having to put the binder down before I start a house on, the back right corner. I agree we need to have a road access, so a vehicle could come in if need be, and that road can be the gravel that I'm gonna put down and eventually test with the compaction, so.
I don't know.
We've done, I think we've always had the binder in
Before building permits?
for the foundation. Yeah, when the foundations are in, the
I know.
binder's in.
So with 194 Main, we talked about doing it different because of the septic in the middle, but because of this, the lot sizes here, I really think it makes a lot of sense to reconsider on this one because of the road and the integrity of the road. The tracks going over it are gonna weaken that base. It's, you want it to be on the gravel, so he can take and fix the gravel, have us come do the inspection on the gravel with the compaction tests after the heavy earthwork's done.
You just wanna feel comfortable that the emergency vehicle can get in there.
Yeah.
If something were to happen.
And that's what the gravel's for.
I hear you, but, I mean, okay, you start building, we'll say, lot 6 or whatever is up at the end, and you've got it pretty much all done. The foundation of lot 1 hasn't even been poured yet. Well, we know you're not gonna get an occupancy permit, but you're gonna have people going in there to look at the units. You're gonna be trying to sell them. So you built the first one. Now you've got no road, you only have gravel. You've got, I don't know, I don't see it. I think a paved road beforehand or after the foundations, but no building after that makes a whole lot more sense, especially in keeping with Norfolk. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Is this something you built?
This is our standard condition.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I'm thinking it's a good one.
Yeah, and I think in 99% of circumstances, it absolutely makes sense. You've got, acre lots where you can move around and, load up and go. We just don't have that here.
Yeah, we have 11 feet between buildings.
I mean, it's tight.
Well, this
You don't
is-
even drive an excavator through there. You'd be driving it on the road, around maybe to the other side, but
Is your concern, Al, driving to the edges? We don't have a lot of, so we're gonna have a lot more edges that are going to be exposed to more road.
no, I'm concerned that, that I have a compaction test to do and binder to put down, and then I'll be ripping it all up again to fix it for the final coat.
So we need to circle
All the
back,
heavy
because
I
this is
understand,
just
yeah.
talking about the driveways, not the roads.
Small amount of space,
This
and then he's gonna
condition.
be backing it up,
No,
trucks
it's
and
the road.
everything.
It's the road.
Edges.
That's how you get emergency vehicles in there.
It's like,
It says no building permit shall be issued until the base coat of pavement for the portions of the driveway serving.
that's the
Building.
same road.
Yeah.
It's not, that should say road.
Yeah.
That should say roadway, yeah. Okay, so.
Because the building permit starts with a foundation. and
Yeah, so we
septic.
haven't, I can't recall, like, getting foundations in without the binder coat in.
Could we do this too? If there's gonna be another follow-up with the fire department, the chief,
Mhm.
could we get an opinion from the fire chief on that?
Might be as cold though.
Well, it's,
I will say it's-
if we took Al's proposal, would the fire department be okay with that? I don't know.
When you say gravel, Al, do you mean compacted gravel?
Yes.
Because that's the gravel that stays in
It's like
place.
you have at the fields,
Okay.
people drive in on them.
Is there a
That's the finished product.
Is there a difference between the base and the binder coat?
Yes, a base course is gravel.
Isn't that
Some-
what this says? Oh, it's pavement.
Yeah, pavement, and so we
Binder
don't,
coat is the pavement.
the binder coat is the 2-inch asphalt that we just don't wanna beat that up. The gravel we can fix, we can regrade, we can touch up, and it's not gonna kill us financially, the
The idea is to
asphalt.
beat, that's where you wanna beat up,
Well, you don't
After
have to
you
get
do
up to the point
compaction.
that you have to repair it.
No, I get it.
Maybe as a compromise, using a dense graded crushed stone,
Yes.
which is a little better riding surface than just compacted gravel. Put the binder on top of that.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, you do like a 3-inch minus,
Yep.
and then you do the dense grade. And so, that's what I'm talking about, is the dense grade.
That would make sense.
That's the material that we run the compaction on.
Is this something that you would be able to add to your inspection checklist? to make sure, Well, I'm just thinking.
Well, no, it's an important thing, though. I mean, we.
Oh, no, that would, yeah,
emergency
to me.
vehicles in there.
So I mean,
Hey, you want?
I think a dense grade roadway is okay. I mean, that's what Al's talking about, right?
I live on one.
Right,
Yeah, no,
It's never been asphalted.
right.
I'm assuming that the more use it gets with the trucks and everything.
The tighter it's gonna get, right?
Yes, and it's even more
I
solid.
would agree.
I would say you don't want the 3-inch minus to be the riding surface.
No,
You want the dense graded stone, crushed stone to be the riding surface in the interim, which is not gonna be to a binder, an asphalt binder, but it's a pretty good riding surface, and you're talking about pretty limited traffic on it, it's gonna be construction vehicles. It's fairly easy to repair if it gets rutted, if it gets holes in it.
And it has to be
What's your time,
acid tested.
what's your time
before we
frame
put
on,
the binder down.
what's your time frame on building all 8 homes, roughly? Are you thinking?
I don't know.
You have enough?
I've learned a long time ago not to put timelines in front of you guys.
I mean,
Next thing you know, it's in
a
a
year,
document.
2
that's
years,
being
or
held
3
over my
years,
head.
what? What's the
I'll be in
limit?
and out of here in a year. Hope. Are we gonna have a shutdown this winter?
I don't know.
You know?
Hope not.
So
No, that's what I'm saying. I can't guarantee it.
We can put a line in that we'll inspect it after the dense graded crushed stone, so.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
No, that makes sense.
It wasn't intermittent, it was more, just to ensure that vehicles can actually function on the space, not just the construction equipment, but.
Yeah, I didn't mean to laugh, I just liked Al's reaction.
And again, just as a suggestion, maybe it's that the road will be maintained in good repair, and maybe that's coming by access for emergency vehicles, but just to make sure that.
All right, so can we, how about this language, no building permit shall be issued, no building permit for a building project shall be issued until the base course, parentheses, dense graded crushed stone, and parentheses, which has been inspected by the consulting engineer for the portion of the roadway serving the building has been installed.
No, building permit meaning the wood,
Nope,
that's the foundation.
that's anything,
Yeah, anything.
any building permit.
Okay.
But that's,
That means the road's graded and dent stoned before they get a permit.
oh, okay, for a foundation, whatever.
Yep, foundation or septic or anything.
Yeah, and Bill takes a look at it to make sure it's suitable for
In
safety.
this town, you can't do that, but, so, we can do it in this case. You can't,
What's that?
can't cut a road in without building permits.
I have no idea.
Well, I do.
No, I hear you.
They don't give foundation permits. They want every building permit paid for in full. I've had this happen on Valley Street.
Hasn't the board modified that to allow foundation permits to be issued?
Yeah, we're doing that here.
That's a whole other word.
So a foundation permit would also be considered a building permit in this case. So maybe we should do
You're not allowed to
foundation.
clear the site without a building permit.
Right.
Okay, you can't get a building permit until you put a gravel road in. Tell me how I do that.
Good point.
Well, that's different, but yeah, you're right. How do you do that?
No,
You can't.
right.
So what do you wanna do?
But pay for my $500 permits to satisfy the building department, put the road in, then do your foundations.
So how about no,
Sounds good.
no construction under a building permit
Right.
shall commence until the.
You can pull the permit.
Right?
You can't get the permit.
How about,
This is my wife, she said I spent too much money on this.
Yeah, word it so that he can pull building permits.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that,
saying no
yeah,
construction activity under a building permit shall commence until after the
there you go.
base
Right.
course.
You're gonna
No
leave that language in there about
no-
access to construction areas shall be sufficient for Norfolk emergency vehicles.
You know we're pouring foundations at 194 without binding down. Realize that, right?
I don't realize it.
Okay. I'm trying to be consistent here.
No, Rich realized, right? You
We're
realize
not,
that,
we're
Rich?
not asking you for binder, we're just saying we're trying to give it to you so that you can pull your permits, put the gravel down, and then start building.
Oh, I thought we were talking about consistency
oh,
in other parts of this.
We were, but we're not, we threw that out.
Okay.
So say, what did you saying again? You said 194 Main, what? Your,
We're not binding, we're putting foundations in before binding.
right.
all right, so how are we wording this again, Dan?
So I don't understand how this is a problem now.
Wasn't
But that's
it
not what the language
size of the site?
condition said.
It's much smaller, so, you know, you would think that it's, you know,
Right. I thought the reason for 194 was because of the septic system.
Yep.
You didn't wanna be putting the septic in, putting the binder in, and then driving heavy equipment over the septic and the binder.
Exactly.
So that was accommodated for already?
It was.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And this is accommodated for because I don't have ability to travel in between houses with heavy equipment, so I have to use the roadway.
Mhm. Yep.
And the roadway will be
It sounds like
destroyed with heavy equipment.
We got you.
It sounds like we got you covered now.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with the language, Mike?
Can you read it back, Dan?
Yep. No construction activity under a building permit for a building in the project shall commence until the base course, parentheses, dense graded crushed stone, and parentheses, which has been inspected by the consulting engineer for the portion of the roadway serving that building, and appropriate turnaround for the fire apparatus have been installed. Access to all construction areas shall be sufficient for Norfolk emergency.
What's a construction activity?
Yeah, can we do it as no work under a building permit except for a foundation, no building construction except for a foundation permit shall not be allowed until,
No what?
no building, no work under a building permit except for a foundation permit shall be allowed until the roadway is in.
But that's allowing foundations to be dug.
Right,
Before the roadway.
Right.
right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I agree with that.
I think the
I
concern
mean,
is.
194, you have a roadway in there with gravel on it. You're driving over.
Yep.
That's what we're saying you have to do on these 8.
So you have a building permit issued, so I can cut trees down.
Yep.
But that building permit doesn't allow you to do anything.
That
Until
building
after
permit,
You build a road, then you can put your foundations in.
Yeah.
So the
Essentially, a
building
building
permit-
permit to start clearing the
Clear the
site
lot.
and put,
Put the road in.
So what does the building permit say on it?
All right, move on?
Yeah.
But, so, you're not
There's no
required,
building permit to apply for.
yeah, you're not
You have to
requiring
put
a
down
building permit
foundation
to install the
permit.
roadway.
In order to fill out an application,
No.
you have to
Right.
put down what you're gonna do.
yeah.
There's no permit that allows you to clear the lot except for a building permit. And that building permit is either a foundation permit, which isn't allowed in this town, or a full-blown permit to construct the whole dwelling. Just trying to educate.
But you were saying that we're writing it up that no construction under an issued permit
Yeah.
would take place until that dense road is in.
Right.
That's all it's
So you
saying,
can
yeah.
get your permits and you can build the road and then
Yeah, then you can do your
then you
construction.
can.
What permits am I getting?
The building permit.
That's what I'm asking. Tell me how I get the building permit. What am I filling out on an application? I know you're saying this, Dan, but let's be real.
Well, how do we do
I
25
fill out an
Rockford Road?
application for a building permit, you issue me the foundation permit. Is that what you're saying the building department's gonna do? Cause he's gonna read this decision, he's gonna say, I can't give you a building permit.
That's not what this says. This says you can't start construction until you build a road.
Okay.
You can get your building permit.
Yeah, it's acknowledging you have an issued permit at this time.
We can say after issuance of the building permit and prior to construction under that permit, then the gravel should be installed. After issuance of the building permit and prior to construction.
I mean, it sounds right.
So that would allow the building department to issue the permit, correct? Is that where you're
I don't
concerned?
know. Stephanie?
You
You're
could,
the building
you
expert.
fill out the application.
Do you think I get a building permit with that language?
I'm just thinking that we've gotten 25 Rockwood off and running, right? We've gotten, you
Yeah.
know, we've done the other part, Boyd's Crossing got
But
done.
the difference in 25 Rockwood, what he's saying is, they have more space, so they put the road to binder.
Right.
Well,
And
why
then
don't we
they-
do this?
Yeah.
Rather than have the circular, why
Yeah.
don't we just ask the building department tomorrow
To issue them a permit.
to
in reality.
Right. Yeah, well, let's get the.
I'll
word-
talk to
get-
Bob.
have-
Come on.
Have them fix the language for us.
He's wondering, he's gonna put down the application, he just referenced F9 on the application, like whatever you put down.
Yeah,
So so you'll run this by,
Right,
Building?
just show them the language tomorrow, let's
Yeah.
because getting out of the gate.
the objective you're trying to do is not have to, you know, you get in there, put the road, the binder, well, not the binder, the gravel, and then start putting foundations in.
We wanna make sure, we wanna make sure he can pull his permit.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
that's what you wanna do, correct?
Exactly.
Right,
Okay.
so let's
Alright.
get that,
As opposed to binder.
But don't forget, Rich, the concern he has is that he can't even start that work until he gets a permit, a building
Right.
permit.
right.
That is.
Right.
And that's
I
the
wanna
bug.
apply for
I-
8 foundation permits so that I can do this project.
Mhm.
I don't wanna apply for 8 full building permits. That's what I requested. Those 8 foundation permits will allow me to clear the trees, take out the dirt, bring my road gravel in.
Mhm. The only difference is you're not gonna put it to binder.
Right.
That's right.
Understand that.
That's right.
Okay.
So just,
When I have those 8 foundation permits in my hands, as long as the verbiage allows for it, the building department will issue those foundation permits. It cannot conflict
Right.
with what they will issue.
So your drafting language, which will say that he can,
I want these foundation permits issued.
foundation permits,
The decision allows, all of our decisions have allowed foundation permits to issue it for $500 apiece.
And the foundation permits trigger, allows him to install the
and they
roadways.
can be.
Correct.
If
Yeah,
we,
it
if we
can
could just
be
leave it
issued
at that, I
based
think
on-
that's enough.
Yeah, just clarify that.
It can be issued based on gravel, not up to
Yeah,
binder.
we're getting actually really into the building code. It's
Right, but from a I understand it's practical concern, that if he,
Yeah,
we go
exactly.
through all this and then he
After this
goes.
is all said and done, I'm the one
Right.
holding this decision,
So let's-
trying to get a permit.
Right.
Correct.
And you guys know where to be found.
I'm
That's
down
why
at
we'll deal with
106 Seacon Street. I don't go too far. I got cows.
Okay, F12, again, the fire chief's approval, we struck it, Jamie's gonna check on it. F13, it talks about prior to construction activities, we're gonna demonstrate compliance with the state fire code sections. We've already provided this to the fire chief, that's how we approved the turnaround.
So,
Yeah, I know that, I do that, we're just, I guess,
Yep.
it's included in that letter just saying everything's.
Yep.
I mean, if we're getting a letter from the chief that says.
Yeah.
it's like the conditions met.
Fine, but-
Yep.
The conditions met, I.
The
That's fine.
conditions here, the
It's not
conditions
another
met.
burden, but.
Yeah.
G1, we struck the provisions that talk about the landscaping maintenance plan and all this good stuff. That was in there because we were talking about the condominium at 194 Main Street, a larger project. We just like to limit it to all landscaping elements shown in the landscaping plan contained within the site plan shall be perpetually maintained by the applicant or successor HOA trust, and just limit it to that. They're the ones who are gonna be responsible for maintaining it.
I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah. How's that sound, Dan?
Okay, so there's not gonna be an operation and maintenance sheet, so you okay with that?
Yeah.
G2, we struck in exhibits filed with the ZBA. We haven't filed any exhibits as it relates to the landscaping plan. I think that's just probably a carryover. G3 we're good with. H1 we're good with. H2, again, this is kind of related to the plans approved, the plans being approved. Bill's already reviewed the stormwater management stuff, so, again, final sign-off, I guess, would incorporate that, so if that's how the board's looking at it, I'd be okay if that stayed in. Again, the applicant shall prepare, H3, the applicant prepare a stormwater management plan and operation maintenance plan, which shall be subject to the approval of the consulting engineer for consistency with the decision. Again, Beta's already seen that, and I think we're good, so I'm not quite sure why we need that in there as well, again.
I look at this as a standard condition that we have and that's being met. It's like, so again, it's conditions here, but it's gonna be met or it is met already. And it's easy to acknowledge that it's been met.
Okay, fair enough.
You agree, Dan?
You already saw the,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
reviewed
agree
the O
with
and M, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Just wants a clarification on that.
H4, again, it makes reference to the SWIP, we don't need that. H5 talks about the catch basins being large enough to accommodate clamshell buckets. I'm
It
not,
says, yeah, drain structures, i.e. catch basins. We can't do that for all the structures. I think Bill will agree, the storm scepter doesn't accept a clamshell. It needs to be vac trucked. So just being,
That's an old regulation that should really go away.
So,
You won't see one of those little trucks come in later on and just do the clamshell thing?
Come on, see them on the highways in New Bedford.
Actually, it was the old DPW director, what was his name?
Was it
Bob?
Butch Vito or was it
No.
Bob McGee?
McGee.
Yeah,
He
Bob.
insisted on this language for a 40B a couple of years ago, I think Enclave.
interesting.
What do you think,
You
Rich?
guys must have just bought a truck, used auction.
Well, I'll put it as a devil's advocate, years down the road, when the HOA's having to clear those storm drains, it's much easier to call a guy from Foxborough with a clamshell than it is to get a vac truck out there for, you know, $1,000 a day, and he's only gonna charge you $300.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic, a clamshell's a whole lot cheaper in the long run than it is a vac truck.
And we
That
don't,
guy has a vac truck.
But-
I know he does.
And you need it.
I know he does, but he's
You need
gonna
it
charge 1,000 instead of 300
You
for
need
it.
it to clean the storm scepter.
yeah, and we
You
don't,
do need it for that, I do agree.
So you're not gonna bring two different trucks to the site to.
yeah, so we're not arguing that the catch basins, you can still use a clamshell. It's just
And they're designed that
the
way.
storm scepter end, you've got the trench drain too, that
Gotcha.
there's no way you're getting a clamshell in,
You're not getting a clamshell in yeah,
trench drain, so.
any drain structure.
So it goes to Rich and Dan, you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, this,
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully the town's not going to be the one doing the maintenance.
Yeah.
So it's
I
really
hope not, no.
a private issue.
Right, right.
we have bigger problems than doing the maintenance of, I would think. We got to that point, right?
Yeah.
We're almost done. So H5, I think you guys are comfortable with deleting. If we go down to section I, I1A, again, this is the approved plans and final plans. In section 2A2, submit proposed HOA trust documents to town planner to ensure consistency with this decision. You've all seen it, so I don't know if Dan needs to look at it again, but if it needs to be tweaked, we'd assume, Rich, oh, you didn't look at it?
I haven't looked at it all.
Okay, so I'll leave it up to the board to, what's your pleasure?
I would leave the board for review of the board, by the board and town council. The town, to put all that on your shoulders?
No.
I don't think that's
No.
even fair.
No, I'm not a council,
Okay,
I mean, we're the legal entity, you're not.
That's the sixth, that should say.
And just on little I.
What's that?
The sixth and final certificate of occupancy?
Oh, yeah.
Is that like the sixth and eighth, or is it, the sixth is the final?
No, the 6th, oh, yeah, the 6th.
Market rate.
Yeah, the two market rates, so it'd be the sixth and the eighth one, because there's 8 units total.
I think it's supposed to be the 6th and final certificate of occupancy for the market rate units, that's right.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
But just going back to little I.
Yep.
I think it actually is final plans, because at that point, we're talking about the plans that it's endorsed.
Okay. Yep. The next paragraph, paragraph B, it's the final code of payment shall be in place over the overwinter, we've already talked about that. I2, our only concern was the amount of money in the tri-party agreement for restoring the site. We had it at 25 grand, I think that was a carryover from Main Street. We'd like to see it at 10. And I think that was it for our requested changes.
Dan, you brought up something about little I, section 1, section, was it section L?
Yeah, approved or final.
It should be the final plans, because it's. at
Okay,
that
but then
point, it's-
your question got squared away?
Yeah, I changed it in my last version. It's, the final plans are the ones that you guys endorse.
Mhm.
So that's like after the permit's been issued. The July 21st plans are the approved plans.
Okay, okay. All right.
And I've changed that, there's a one.
And that's it for us.
On A11, Mike, I wasn't crazy about the sentence that you added. Can I word it to?
Yeah.
The fee for a foundation permit shall be $500 per foundation.
That's fine.
Okay.
Do you want to limit it to building commissioner only, or should it be building department?
Well, I struck that second sentence, so instead of having that, the sentence that says the building commissioner shall issue foundation permits only at $500, the way that was worded just seemed kind of awkward to me.
So it's not one individual at this time?
I'm taking that sentence out. So the sentence will say, the fee for a foundation permit shall be $500 per foundation. And then in the waiver table, it says specifically that
Right.
that foundation permits shall be allowed.
So I think what Stephanie's asking is, above that, we have, it's listed as building commissioner, and she's asking if you wanna make it building department.
Oh, the first sentence?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jonathan's not the building commissioner, but he does all that, you know, so.
I like that.
Department's fine, yeah. So, that's it?
That's it.
Do you guys wanna go through any of the conditions, or?
Anybody else have any questions on this?
No.
So I think, just to recap, you're gonna get us some plans to build.
Mhm.
You'll have time to review them, and I believe we'll continue this till August 4th.
I can't be here on August 4th.
Oh, okay. Did we officially continue this August 4th yet?
We have that. no.
Okay. So what can we do here?
Well, August 4th should just be a formality, right?
Right.
Well,
We're gonna
That-
do all the heavy lifting well before that.
Was it just that day of that week? Is that the?
I think we picked that date last time because Josie was
Yep.
leaving us for a month
That's
to
right.
go to
Very important.
overseas, so.
Is it something you can phone in to, Dan?
No, I'm actually, I have another meeting that night.
Okay.
Is the 5th?
You just,
I could do the 5th.
this is just a formality, right? Because I'm gonna be here, but,
Right.
okay.
When are you leaving?
The 10th.
Is the 5th okay? The Thursday versus?
We're still committed to be here 4th though, right?
Not yet.
Right. Oh, I thought we moved
Well-
some, did we already move something to the 4th?
No,
No.
Oh, okay. What was that motion we had earlier for the continuance?
that was for September 1st.
That was for
Oh, okay,
September
okay,
1st.
good, I understand, good.
So could the 5th work versus the 4th?
Both of them were fine with me.
Fine with me.
Is
Yeah, it
the-
was just you had a conflict on
Is
this.
this room available?
It is, I'm moving it now.
I'm not available that week, but I assume you don't need me that night.
Assuming that everything's kosher.
So instead of the 4th, we
You know, not on? Oh,
Because I assume we're gonna be voting on this.
Yeah,
And I assume a vote's coming.
once he gets the plans to build, if he's
Yeah,
okay with it,
yeah.
or has anything,
Yeah, because that's the night we'll approve.
I don't know what else we're gonna
Yeah,
come up with, we'll finalize
They,
this,
they are.
I agree.
unless the applicant
So
wants to
Dan,
continue.
the vote
for
is not tonight, it's on the 5th with the final cleanup.
What did I do?
I just asked in case the applicant wanted.
Yeah, unless you wanna
continue
extend this
for
whole
3
thing
months.
again.
Are we okay with
Can you
timeline on all
approve
this?
with
Yes,
revisions?
Let me just,
With all seriousness, are we okay with timeline
I
on
just
this?
wanna check out, well, yeah,
Can we approve tonight with revisions?
yeah, is it tonight a vote with the revisions or just everything boxed up in one vote on the 5th?
You don't have to vote tonight. I
Okay.
mean,
I thought
you
we
could do
would
a,
just vote all,
We could vote tonight for, plus with the revisions, and
you
then,
could take a symbolic vote just to say we're approving the comprehensive permit, but
Yeah,
we
let's
still
do
have to,
that.
we still have to finish the conditions,
Right.
and you could close the hearing. I mean, there's not much, oh no, you can't because
Oh,
we're
we want
getting
that-
input from.
No,
Yeah.
let's leave the hearing open.
All
We'll
right, so-
agree to extend, we
so the
agree to extend it to August
Final vote
5th.
is the 5th,
Right.
everything.
I'd like a nice vote now. Why don't we talk about it a little bit?
It's only,
Well,
it's
be
it's
careful about
symbolic,
that.
it's a symbolic vote though.
I like
Careful about
symbolics. They're on record.
That's day or two
So when they
early.
become unsymbolic later, I can refer to it.
So I would just say continue to the 5th.
Yeah,
We'll plan on closing the hearing the 5th. Probably end up finalizing the decision on the
Or
5th.
the
yeah.
second,
Um,
or the
I
second.
think we're in a good place
So
on
I
this.
did entertain a
and you have
motion.
the final plans on the 5th,
I agree.
so everything's all set on
On
the
track.
5th.
Yes.
What about the, have the plans before then to Bill, and
Right,
we'll have his input, and
but I mean,
How about August 3rd?
yeah.
The second?
I'm busy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
All right, the 5th it is, okay, all right. All right, so you do, I'm sorry.
so I'd entertain a motion to continue the hearing until August the 5th at 7 o'clock.
Second, So moved.
For a second.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Sounds good.
What time on the 5th?
And then the
7
time
o'clock.
to
7.
act, that was the,
7 o'clock.
You're-
Seven.
you're the only thing on the 5th. In terms of time to act, do we have an extension?
We agree to extend it to August 5th. If you gave it to the 4th before, we'll give you the 5th now.
Thank you.
Did I tell you he doesn't speak for me anymore?
I tried to get him to approve it tonight for you. I'm not even on there, so.
No, almost.
I think this is in a good place right now.
Oh, that's
You don't need me to wait. Thank you all.
Thank you, have a good night.
We have to do stuff here, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
sign the plans, yeah.
You got the pens and everything again?
Just need ink, just need, no special.
No,
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you,
Please
Bill.
don't want the
Thank you,
Mylars?
guys.
No, this is just paper.
Thank you, Mike.
So we just need ink.
I got ink.
Put that on
I have a
that.
ballpoint. It's even black. Wow, Sharon Credit Union's pretty good.
We didn't do, it was a little messy the last time, right? So,
What happened last time?
well, just everything got completely out of order on the last.
Did we miss any signatures?
No.
See, that was
No,
good.
no,
So,
you
so
got-
we,
Ah, see, we
we
did
did our
good.
job.
We had
Good job.
30 pages.
Just not in order.
We started with 30 pages in order and ended up with 30 out of order, so.
So even though I was never involved with this, I still sign it? That's weird.
Yeah, that's administrative,
Administrative.
I slipped these plans in there, so.
I know.
Now, what is this?
And why don't you buy the guy's house next door and you can change the whole thing again?
Something doesn't happen there, I can't do this.
Come on.
I didn't
So
know
why
you
don't,
guys
why don't,
were level
why don't we just
three
pair up and
truck
once, we'll
permits.
work one set, they work the other set, and then we'll switch.
So,
I'm deferring to Stephanie, she has.
you know, it's
She has a
Why don't we just pair up and let two work on one set and two,
we don't wanna slide them out of order.
okay, that's fine.
I'm gonna actually bring this over.
That's the
here.
big,
You can take whatever. I didn't sign anything yet.
All we need is JS.
you need,
You just need pens.
you all have pens?
I got a pen.
No, I don't have one, I'm sorry, I don't have
Is
one.
that good?
I saw that.
What color pen you need?
It was black.
I have a blue.
I think I'm black, right? I'm black.
Wanna see the venom? Yeah, this is the town my mother comes from. It's the oldest city in the world.
So if you guys wanna just hop up.
I'm a Mediterranean.
Perfect.
Let me see if I can find my home in here. So our house is in this, so you know, the business region. Like my great-grandfather had a lot of stores, and our living department was owned by those stores. And they have those flowers. It's like, almost like going to Italy or Greece. Look at the water.
What's that?
Sign this and we'll close the hearing.
I know.
The, today will be the endorsement date. Approve, we'll write that date. You could just sign.
Oh, okay, so we just sign below.
Just sign below.
Okay, fine.
Yep, just sign below. We'll put in the dates. I have to have,
No, I think it's three.
'Cause I have to have
I think
Carol.
Over 16 units, three. All right, so it puts you so close to 40B that it pushes
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
40B because you don't get any of the zoning
Oh, it's not closed yet?
with the
I
town
think you
zone.
did vote to close it.
This is the thing from the government?
Yeah.
Oh,
You can vote to close it.
we should have, that just gets signed, we just stop.
All the profit goes out the window.
I did. My dad lost 20 lots to 3.
So why don't we,
Yeah, so,
I'll entertain a motion to close this.
Yes, thank you. Before I get myself in trouble.
I tried to explain it to him. He didn't listen.
Joe?
Yep.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're closed.
Good night, everyone.